Have a holly jolly Christmas. Dee 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 dee. Oh, train wreck. No, it doesn't. Those melodies don't work together. Hello, Merry Christmas. It's another Winds of Winter Sunday. We are celebrating winter. I guess we're in the long night. Is this 14 years without the sun? Is that what we're doing? Well, in any case, we're all still captivated by A Song of Ice and Fire for some reason. Must be a good author. Have us wait this long for a book. Anyway, yes, it is Barristan Winds of Winter sample chapter Sunday, and so we will once again ride with Barristan the Bold as he charges the trebuchets and the catapults and the mangonels. Speaking of cats and mans, I've got 2 mans here and 1 cat.
Come get your mans.
What's up, fellas? Let us all hang on. Let me just do something real quick. Let us all bask in the glory of Tim's new lighting. We can see his skin tone, and his cat is no longer a total silhouette. We got a little bit of dark gray and with the pitch black. It's just black. And the tail. Dinner is coming. That's a cool little studio you got there. Look at all those masks to your right. A man of many faces.
Yeah, we never really get to see the full set when it's just the third of me on screen. But yeah, I actually got a lot going on in this room.
That kitty is just love how much affection the cat gets. Damon the cat. Anyways, yes, we do talk about Ice and Fire here. We don't just do pet show, but let's bring in the live chat. Hello, live chat. Just want to say hi. And yeah. Barristan Bold, the first runner-up in our Greatest Warriors tourney. Secret Agent Man, Barristan. We have done a Barristan character stream before. And this will definitely focus on, predictions as well as this Winds of Winter chapter. But this is the beginning of the Battle of Fire. And so we are sort of working through it in order. Last week what did we do last week? Victarion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's on the way to the Battle of Fire. And in this chapter, Barristan sees that. He's like, oh, look, Ironborn. Sweet. They must be on our side. So we're seeing some strange Westerosi alliances come together. Yeah, Sean, you got a boot camp thing going on. The fresh haircut and the green shirt.
Oh, okay. Well, I am not ex-military or current military, to be clear.
Very much not. However, it is appropriate for the topic of the stream. So I wore my Grim Reaper shirt because, we talk about death coming for everyone. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Black Death European Tour shirt because we will be the Pale Mare is coming. Corpses are being flung over the city walls by trebuchets, so the Pale Mare is on its march, the bloody flux.
And how they are catapulting those corpses right into the air. And so we're going to do Barristan today. Next week will be the Tyrion chapter, where he is out in the field observing everything. So the Battle of Fire is interesting because of all the perspectives that we have, I guess, between Victarion and Barristan and Tyrion. We've got these 3 different angles on it. So, and I will just real quickly thank everyone for watching Tyrion Targaryen Part 1 this week. I've convinced everyone in the fandom now, and I appreciate that. Part 2 is coming next week with all the Dragon Dreams and some tasty, tasty stuff. It's also going to be an hour long. It also will have a Reading Rhaegar ad. No word on what the product is. We were selling earbuds last time. What's it going to be this time? Manta Sleep again, actually. Manta Sleep has signed up to be, they're going to partner with me all next year. So you will see more Manta Sleep ads, which is awesome because I freaking love my sleep mask, yo. I'm so converted on that. Anyway, yeah, so. Hasn't given me any visions of deep ones, despite the name Manta Sleep, Tim. Very disappointing. I thought I would see out of the eyes of manta rays and skin change the wolves of the sea, the orcas, but it has not happened yet.
All I can see every time I see it, I just think Black Manta, the DC villain.
Maybe I can work that in one of the ads. That's good. That's a good angle. So yeah, Tyrion Blackfire can wait. No, not Tyrion Blackfire. He's Tyrion Hill, technically. I do love the whole like. What's that, Sean?
I said Tim has been at these notes.
Indeed.
Well, if you did see my comment, I did mention that Tyrion does have a Melis the Monstrous dream where he believes he had a vestigial head that was crying.
So we are going to talk about that in part 2, quite a bit. Yes, it does indeed. It's a little bit fuzzy what qualifies as a dragon dream. Like Tiora Toland dreams of dragons. Everywhere the dragon stands, the people died. That seems more like a psychic premonition of a big event that's going to happen that just happens to involve dragons. Kind of like the Red Wedding. Everyone saw the Red Wedding. That doesn't mean everyone is a wolf warg because they see a wolf in the dream. But the dragon dreams are like kind of unique. They're their own kind of psychic dreams. They involve Targaryens. Usually the dragons symbolize people or various things that are happening. So I don't think Tiora Toland is having a dragon dream. And so Tyrion's dragon dream, it could be like that, where he's just seeing the dragons because they're going to be fighting in Westeros and he's going to be there fighting in Westeros. But it really does read like more like a Targ dragon dream to me. So we'll just have to let people decide, I guess.
Maybe the third head of the dragon is deformed with its own vestigial fourth head sticking out of it, like a little Quado head sticking out of its neck. Free mine!
Well, unlike Melis the Monstrous, who was too chicken to consume his own twin in the womb, Tyrion has fully absorbed. And honestly, like, a lot of people are down with Chimera theory, which is cool. It's almost what clinches it, kind of. Like, when you add the mythology of the Chimera and the traits of Chimerism and you put it all together, it's like, oh, okay, I think that's what George is doing. So, but Sean, I did want to, I was curious what you thought of the whole Underhill stuff, the reference to Frodo, Tyrion being a hobbit under the hill, but also like Smaug and Fafnir, and then the whole Hugor Hill. Are you a little king or a little bastard? Like, George is cooking on that.
He is, and it's not even that he's just referencing Tolkien. He's referencing what Tolkien is referencing. So when you think Underhill, it's just the mini version of a king under the mountain. So when you have Mr. Underhill and he's carrying a golden ring, you know, if you're looking at the culture that Tolkien was drawing from, like Beowulf, the person who hands out golden rings is a king. So like you have Beowulf, one of his nicknames or one of his kennings for Beowulf is the Lord of those Rings. So it's, you know, because he's handing out all these golden rings to his thane. That's
because in Viking culture and warlord culture in general, like the gift giving is such a big part of how the chieftain retains loyalty. Like, you're supposed to show everyone that you have so much bounty because you are so great. You conquer so many people. You're always giving out gifts. People want to be around you. It's nicer than authoritarianism, really. I'm not sure what that bribe economy is called, but yeah, the gift giving is a big thing, and that's where that comes from.
I think bribe economy works, and we're going to go with that. And
that's what we have now, but that's different. Let's not get me started. So,
but it's a few things. Sorry, it's a few things. So it's aside from the king under the mountain trope, which you've talked about before. You know, the king who returns when he's needed. It's kind of like sometimes it's like a prophecy. Sometimes it's just, you know, Deus Ex Machina. But there's also the idea that Underhill, it has death shades in it. So like when you're talking about Underhill, that's where they buried people. You would have a little hill and you'd build a barrow into the hill. And so like in Tolkien, he had the Barrow Wights, and they were a bunch of graves of people from the Kingdom of Arnor.
And it's the same idea with, of course, the She, people of the mounds. Like, it's not rocket science here. You bury the dead people under the ground, so that must be where they all are, right? You know?
Right. When the Christians got a hold of the She, one of the things that they kind of like retroactively changed is they made them less, they kind of took away some of the dignity of it by putting them under mounds, calling them the mound people, rather than having them be, you know, kings on the land and maybe gods or godlike people, however you want to look at it. but stuffing them underground, like, it was a way to kind of change their characterization. So Underhill, we should be thinking of barrows. We should be thinking of, buried ghost people, undead being resurrected. And Tyrion fits pretty well into that as well.
Yeah, he has a lot of ghostly. So this is one I didn't get into, is the dream he has while he's unconscious after he's got his face sliced at the Blackwater, and he sees the battlefield, but it's like an end times battlefield, and the sun is like a hot penny, and he's muted, and that's a pretty good one. We should check that chapter out one time. I don't think we have read that chapter. We totally should read that one. And then there's the one where he goes underwater in the River of Time and drowns and comes back. So that's symbolism, probably.
Yeah. And then there was a super chat that went by that also brought up Tyrion as Dwarven King under the mountain. Yep, there you go. Under the Castro Mountain.
Yep. Yeah, and of course he is royalty. It's the same thing with Jon. Like, he's got the king symbolism. Doesn't mean he's going to sit the throne. It just means he's of the bloodline of the kings. He could be a contender for the throne potentially. So, and then also thank you to Ollie Reed, saying hi there.
From 5 minutes in the past. Well, when you reach this point, you'll have time traveled into the future at the speed of regular time.
Just make sure someone pumps that river of time out of your lungs so you can get a full breath. Live in the present. But yeah, of course, Azor Ahai, he goes into the Weirwood Net and potentially is reborn from the Weirwood Net. So Tyrion, as an Azor Ahai figure, he's going into the river of time and dying and coming back. So that's not too hard to understand. Child's play.
I would say just let him drown on that river of time water and then patch face him.
Well, yeah, I really would like to see what George had in mind for Tyrion meeting the Shrouded Lord that's potentially turning into his father, some sort of dream amalgamation of Tywin and the Shrouded Lord. That would have been pretty fun. And there is this other figure, right? Like, Azor Ahai is going into the Weirwood Net, and he's dying. Dantos is a good example. He's giving up the Moon Maiden, and he's dying. He's given the dragons. They come down from the sky. They're thrown to him, and then he drowns and dies. But who's this Merlin King figure? Like, Peter, he's the trickster who's luring Azor Ahai in and turning the tables on him. I'm not even sure who that is archetypally, but that character does appear a bunch of times. So that would be the same thing as the Shrouded Lord, Merlin King. Like, that kind of all fits, right?
So I think there's a reason why there are 3 heads to the dragon. You're going to have 3 different Azor Ahai figures, and one of them is going to be evil. So we see these 2 figures who should both be Azor Ahai figures, and another good example of that with Peter is Merillion. So Peter has all this symbolism of this, bird, right? This cuckolding bird,
Mockingbird,
right?
Yeah.
A mockingbird, a bird that is famous for singing. And then you would be shocked if you go back and read it, you'll be shocked at how similar the descriptions of Peter and Merillion are in those series. Because we have the guy whose sigil is a bird that sings and he's a cuckold. Then we have Merillion, who is doing some cuckolding stuff and he's a singer. And then they have a direct confrontation when Lysa is killed and he cuts out Merillion's tongue. So that's like Azor Ahai on Azor Ahai violence. And it's also part of the your werewood stigmata, silencing.
So I've observed them as sort of functioning together as the Bael the Bard archetype. Peter Baelish has a bard, and they have this overlapping symbolism. So they're almost functioning as a unit in a way. I'm not sure how to parse it exactly, but it's that pattern that we've seen. Like, literally Bael the Bard, sets the template. But then there's other Baelish people. Baelor the Blessed, he is a Night's King figure. I don't think he really does any singing. Where's the bard element in that story? The main thing is that he traps his women in the Maiden Vault. So there's not a singing element, but he is luring and trapping.
Well, I think there's the singing element of that's what people are doing. Anytime people are actually talking about going into the Sept of Baelor, they're talking about singing the hymns and stuff like that.
Oh, that's true. You're right. They are always singing in the Sept of Baelor. You're correct. Okay, there it is.
But yeah, it's just like, it's the same thing we observed when we were redoing the Mountain and the Viper duel. We had Tyrion and Oberyn occupying the same archetype and kind of running it in tandem.
Yes. Yeah, that happens a lot. I think Martin simply does that to make the symbolism flexible enough to like suit different scenes, because there's a lot of characters. And he can use the different, like Tyrion and Oberyn, they can show different aspects of the journey. So yeah, it does keep it a little more flexible and ambiguous. That, because like I said, he's using the same templates to make so many different scenes. Anyway, Tim, what's your basic thought on Tyrion being a Targaryen or not?
I guess I'm a fan of the Chimera theory. I do like the idea that Tywin is both his biological father. I think it speaks to Tywin that, for all of his pride, for him to have to create something like Tyrion, and for Tyrion to be of his flesh and blood and of his own making, like, is seen as a folly to him. But if we can't have him being purely Tywin's biological son, then the whole Chimera aspect that he is fathered by both Aerys and Tywin makes sense to me. As for Aerys being his sole biological father, I think we have enough secret Targaryens without having to throw Tyrion in there.
Yeah, I mean, he still is a secret Targaryen, but it's just like a more interesting version of it. I think it also serves to hide it. Like if he looked like a friggin' Targaryen, it'd be like, oh, I wonder who that is. And then if he didn't look like a Targaryen at all, it'd be like, okay, so Jon and Tyrion are both Targs, but neither one of them look like it. Like, all right. Like Jon, It makes sense because his mom has dark looks and Rhaegar's half Blackwood, so that gets you Jon Snow. But yeah, I just love the whole, like, his patchy beard is a match for chimerism, as is the heterochromia. So that really does make a lot of sense. And then the thing I forgot to mention, the goat head on the chimera, the random goat head that's coming out of the back, is frequently also depicted as a ram's head. And the ram, speaking in terms of the zodiac, there's a symbol for Aries. It's in Aries, Tyrion's father, Aries. So the chimera may just be a coincidence, but it could be that George was like, oh, wait a minute, I can use the chimera, and it's got an Aries clue built in.
Yeah. I think what George is going to do is, because he's never going to come out and explain everything. I'm sure some things are going to be left murky enough for interpretation. So one thing I think of is the idea of Tyrion riding a dragon, but not him solely riding a dragon, but as a passenger, right? Like I think of like when Visenya took the Veil of Aaron and she gave the little Lord Aaron a ride on her dragon, or how Alice Rivers shows up at Harrenhal accompanying Aemond One Eye. Like, we know that dragons will take passengers with them, so the possibility of Dany taking Tyrion as a passenger, like Tyrion riding, but backseat, then that also it muddies the waters. It's like, oh, is it just because he was with a rider as a passenger, or could he have done this all on his own? Like, I think that's going to be something that will happen, but will be left ambiguous. So, belt it out, Maynard. You're my passenger.
That's a hard one to sing, boy. They're like 4 octaves up in that tune. That's a great tune, though. But yeah, the woman with the monkey's tail, who saved the long night in Yi Ti. Tyrion is the monkey man, and a tail is what a king calls their procession. So Dany's tail is Tyrion the monkey. So a woman with the monkey's tail will help save the world from the long night, perhaps. I do like, a lot of people do think that it'll be that way with Tyrion, where we won't get it confirmed. He'll hop on a dragon just for a minute. It won't be an obvious dragon bond, but it'll be enough to make it, oh, that's why he could ride it, So we'll see what George does. I still am pretty locked onto the idea that Viserion is going to get stolen by Euron. I mean, that symbol it just would be shocking if that didn't happen in some form. But Tim, you've talked about the Bayaki and the dead dragon symbolism.
Yeah.
If the Dany's vision of a stone beast taking wing from a burning tower and breathing shadow fire, if that is a reference to Euron and what he's doing in Old Town, like what's that shadow fire and stone beast? Like that could match a whited dragon. Like their fire is unnatural, shadowed. The dragon itself is possessed. That could fit that to me.
Yeah, it could. I still think that one's more that one's probably more John Con imagery, but it still fits.
So check this out, Tim. The longer I've thought about that one, the more I can match it to anyone. Because Tyrion is a stone beast, and because he's a gargoyle, and not only that, he perches on the top of towers and castles as a gargoyle. Like at the Battle of Blackwater, that's what he does. Dany's dragon breathes shadow fire. He breathes the black fire. That's what the name Blackfire is named after, the fire of Balerion, Drogon's ancestor, because he breathed the black fire. Well, the sword's named after the dragon fire, and the family's named after the sword. But it all goes back to the black dragon fire of Balerion and other black dragons like Drogon. So that one's crazy. And what's weird about it, Tim, is like it's this triplet, right? First one is obviously Stannis, blue-eyed king, red sword, no shadow. Then it's a Greyjoy. You could say it's either Victorian or no, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. It's the blue-eyed king. Then it's the cloth dragon on poles, which is obviously Fagon, and then it's the stone beast taking wing. So it's weird if it was like Stannis, Fagon. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make more sense if it was Stannis, Fagon, Euron. But yeah, but like you said, the Stone Beast is Jon Con, and the Blackfire Rebellion that he's bringing is the Shadow Fire that he's breathing. So it really could fit anybody almost.
Yeah.
Well, anytime I hear Shadow Fire or Shadow Flame, all I can think of is Balrog. So like spending a lot of time under the earth in kind of hibernation until people are stupid enough to bring it back to life, basically. First off, that's looking like Dany's eggs, and one of them has linguistic roots in common with Balrog, Balerion. So, and that's not an accident. The Bale aspect of it comes from Celtic mythology. And then,
so you just did something that I do, which is to swap Balerion and Drogon. Her dragon is Drogon, but he is Balerion come again. So by proxy, right. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I do that a lot, but it's because they're the same damn thing. You're right.
Yes.
Another thing that wanted to kind of draw attention to when you were back on your Chimera theory, right? So Chimera's mother is Echidna, and Echidna has a lot of kids, but among them, so we look at if Tyrion's the Chimera here, some of her other kids are Kerberos, the three. So we have already there in the Westerlands, we have the House Clegane, who have the Cerberus sigil.
Right.
Then there's like Orthis, Hydra, which is basically a classic dragon with extra heads. So that's the Targaryen dragon. So that kind of mother of monsters thing, it makes a lot of sense when you start looking at the people that they associate with. So like the Cleganes, you have Gregor Clegane. He's knighted by a Targaryen. He kills the Targaryen kids. Like there's a lot of association both ways with that. When you look at his brother, he's the sworn shield for a Lannister. He fights for the Lannisters. They're both, bannermen to the Lannisters. So we're getting representations in all of kind of the Greek family of Echidna.
Yeah, that would make sense that it's sort of reflected out. Like I was looking at Dany as the Hydra and Jon as Cerberus because those are your three heads of the dragon. But then Tywin has his dogs, Tywin's dogs, one of which is Gregor. So yeah. He's a big recycler, George, And like I've said many times, the Hound is the honorary direwolf for Sansa and Arya, both of whom lose their wolves. So that we can see that the symbolism is overlapping there.
Well, and there's a great line from King Robert to Sansa. He goes, "Get her a hound. She'll be a lot happier for it."
Right. I think she says dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, that he's called dog anyways. If Tyrion is the Chimera, who would be Typhon? Well, I don't know. So just because Tyrion is the Chimera doesn't mean that Ares has to be Typhon. That's not necessarily how George always does it. But what can you tell us about Typhon, Sean?
So to a point, it's the basic chaos comp. You have this serpent-like or dragon-like figure. It's always, from a primordial ocean, right? Because if you're a primitive society, the thing that you're most afraid of is the ocean. You can't survive out there. You can only tread water for so long. You'll drown.
I'm terrified of the ocean, so I get it.
Right. So the idea is this storm god can be scary too. Storms can be scary. Thunder, lightning, you can get hit by it. You can get, swept away in flooding. Like all kinds of bad things can happen in a storm, but you need storms. Storms water the crops. Like you need to fertilize the land. You need storms. So the storm god.
Speaking of Baal and Baelor, that's a different that's Baal, the storm god. But yes.
Yeah. Well, it's both. But yeah, it's the storm god is the chaos that you need, and and in the other end of the chaos conf, the serpent, dragon, whatever, is the chaos that needs to be defeated in order for there to be an order to the world. So Typhon is that chaos, too big, too powerful, too unpredictable. Zeus had to defeat Typhon. So Zeus is your classic storm god against this serpent-like figure. Typhon's a little bit unique in that vein, in that he's somewhat humanoid and he has like serpent-like legs and stuff going on. But it's still the same basic idea, and it's not even the only iteration of Chaos Conf, because Greek mythology imported a number of other characters that fought serpents, like Apollo fighting the Python, the mighty Python.
Well, that does kind of fit. Ares' reign is extremely chaotic. And literally, Robert Baratheon, the Storm God, has to rise up and smash down their whole dynasty to remove its chaos from the land. So actually, that fits pretty well. I mean, all Targaryens are multi-snake people, so that part works fine. If you even think about Ares sitting on the Iron Throne, that creates the snake arms and legs potentially through visual symbolism. But yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so that's also a thing that so Typhon and Echidna, they're the parents of Hydra, Chimera, Kerberos, Orthus, and that's a fairly important here because there's some linguistic similarity between Tywin and Typhon for a reason. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is so that's I mean, we're gonna get it from more than one places because we obviously get a lot of Apollo symbolism from Jaime. He is screaming Apollo more as much as he's screaming just about any other figure in mythology. And Apollo has his own chaos conf. The Python was not a giant snake. It was more like a dragon, but we named the Python snake after it, and he gained his ability of foresight from it. It's why Jaime is having those, they're not prophetic dreams, but it's why he's having those weird dreams in which he's learning things and they're not like normal dreams. And because that's what happened after Apollo killed Python. He got the spirit of Delphi from the Python.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that kind of tracks. Yeah. And, the other thing that's interesting about Jaime is that he also has Tyr symbolism. So I was pointing out Tyrion, named after a war god. And Tyrion is very warlike. He's in a bunch of battles, actually. And then his father, Ares, is the Norse god of war, or the Greek god of war, rather. But of course, Jaime, he gets his hand cut off, and then he relates it back to Bran Stark and says, this is the hand that I pushed Bran out of the window. Bran is the winged wolf, so it creates the whole Tyr getting his hand cut off by a wolf, or eaten by Fenrir, if you will. So I was wondering about that. I was like, why is the Tyr symbolism repeated with Jaime and Tyrion? Maybe it's just to create cohesion or whatever, but
I tend to think so, because he's branched off with the symbolism in Cersei. There's some overlap, partially just because they're twins, and because they make a big deal about how they used to switch when they were little and that kind of thing. But in general, like obviously she's named after a figure from mythology, so that's not too tough to parse out. But with Tyrion and Jaime, they have to go circular in some ways.
Maybe it's just George demonstrating his skill too, showing you how he can take the same archetype and spin it into two people who seem totally different.
Yeah, well, Tyrion like having symbolic death after symbolic death when he was Hand of the King for a while and is going to be Hand of the King again probably. Mm-hmm. That's like cutting off hands. So it's the Tyr thing again.
Right. He's right, because they talk about that. Jaime mentions that, like, Ares likes to chop off his hands.
Right.
Meaning his Hand of the Kings. Yeah.
Well, and he was extra worried. He sent Janos Slynt away and Maester Pycelle and all that because he was worried that the same thing might happen to him as happened to Ned Stark, the wolf.
Yeah, we basically are just starting Wolf Trem. Yeah, we're here to read Sir Barristan, and we're just sort of jamming here for a minute. The last thing I was going to mention that doesn't have anything to do with Barristan is I said a minute ago that Rhaegar was half Blackwood, and somebody nut-oned me in the chat. Yeah, is my answer to that. So
yeah, 2 generations of incest after Egg. Yeah.
Not cousin incest. It's straight up brother-sister.
Direct brother-sister incest. Yeah. To generate the last outside marriage was Egg's marriage to Betha Blackwood.
This is the danger of having a family tree with no branches.
Exactly. So I'm not sure scientifically. I always put the air quotes when I say 50%, because of course when 2 DNA strands splice together, like it's a little bit random, like which attribute, like some, if you have a sibling, one of you might have certain looks from your one parent and one the other, and only God knows how that works, so it's not necessarily 50%, but the point is Egg married a Blackwood, and then they had 2 generations of incest kids, so technically Rhaegar and Dany have as much Blackwood DNA to draw from as Targaryen DNA.
Yeah, we're simplifying this. It's middle school biology. Line up your Punnett squares. It's going to be all Blackwood and Targaryen.
That's it.
Yeah, we're not flipping coins over here.
Yeah. But the point is, like, one of Egg's kids came out with dark hair. Duncan, Prince of Dragonflies. Why? Because Egg married a Blackwood. So, like, George is thinking about it in a basic way, like Tim said. So when we look at Jon, like, this helps explain why Jon can be Rhaegar's son and come out looking dark, because Rhaegar had dark hair genetics, hiding beneath his silver hair, and his mom had dark hair. So there you go.
And that's why they had to get Shara Dane involved, just as a cover story.
That is the whole point of having Ashara as a cover story, so that in case Jon looks purple or silver at all, they can say that's why. That's the whole idea. Yes. That is the point.
Then Robert breaks his arm high-fiving him, and Ned Stark just cries about how strong and manly Ned is and has more dreams about it.
Well, Ned, Robert is a hunk, and Ned is
an otter.
An otter?
Oh yeah.
I don't know that term, but
yeah, it's like a bear, but you're leaner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, these are real terms.
Oh, I assume they are.
Yeah, bear, otter, twink, twunk, twonk, hunk. Yeah, they're all gay subspecies. Happy to educate.
Well, that's the thing about Jon is he's always brooding, and it's like, oh, Rhaegar was brooding. Like Ned kind of sulks and broods too. So Ned's been sulking in the north and brooding for like 18 years or something since Robert's Rebellion.
Yeah, Rhaegar married into the right family.
I mean, what was their playlist like? Rhaegar and Lyanna. It was all depressing music, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, a lot of skinny puppy and yeah.
Some Mazzy Star, maybe get into some Radiohead, you know, like anyway. Tim, why don't you start off the chapter? We are going to have Sean do Barristan, and I guess me and Tim will sort out the other voices. A lot of this will be narrator, so we'll just take turns. The Smiths, The Cure, yes. No, not Dave Matthews Band. Who said that? Band Minerva Nix. I'm going to start calling you Minor Vanix again.
No, Ned has his own band. All right, he's giving out mixtapes.
Ned is a secret music snob. I can sort of see that.
Yeah.
He brings you into the audiophile chamber in Westeros and makes you listen to stuff on vinyl.
Yeah, music was better at 250 AC.
After he explains to you the recording process that was used and stuff, so you can appreciate it fully. All right. Yeah, go ahead and get us started, Tim.
All right, so half hour in, we start the chapter. Through the gloom of night, the dead men flew, raining down upon the city streets. The riper corpses would fall to pieces in the air and burst when they came smashing down onto the bricks, scattering worms and maggots and worse things. Others would bounce against the sides of pyramids and towers, leaving smears of blood and gore to mark the places where they'd struck.
So there's exploding things falling out of the sky. Tim, is this symbolism?
Yeah, just a tad.
And
Worse things to come.
And the corpse symbolism is one we see very commonly applied to the meteors because it is the corpse of the moon. It's the moon goddess. She's been killed and her body cut apart like Baylor Black Tide, kind of, you know? And so, yeah, these are all... We've seen a lot of the, I hate to say it, but dead babies, you know, aborted babies or babies that died in the womb like Rhaego, baby Rainies, like a lot of these dead children... it has to do with like people sacrificing their children for power, you know, the evil sort of trading of the future for the present. But the meteors are like the children of the moon, but they are dead, the never born. Yeah, similar idea. So it is an unholy birth, if you will, like Azor Ahai's rebirth. And so, yeah, others are bouncing against the sides of the pyramids and the towers. So we're getting both the moon meteor stuff with the corpses and the sickness that they're bringing, because remember, like me and Tim always say, like these are Lovecraftian meteors, like color out of space. They're going to make everything sick. So we see this a lot.
Well, and that's when you see the sun filtered through debris in the atmosphere and the light is bending at a different angle. You're seeing the sun as a different color, and the way that that's explained in primitive cultures is that the sun is sick. So like it really folds in on itself. Also, I just like the sentence of "in the gloom of the night, the dead men flew," because that's how we analogize green men, you know, doing their green seer thing, is that they're flying. You know, this reminds me of Bran's dream, where he's trying to fall down on the spikes so far. And, you know, who are all the other people? It's like those were dreamers who, you know, couldn't fly. And so this is dead men flying, i.e. green seers who've gone into the werewood net doing green seer things.
Yeah. And then also, the corpses bouncing against the pyramid towers, like leaving, that's another way of saying the destruction left behind by meteors, the wreckage and the destruction. And then you take something like Stygi, right? Stygi is a corpse city, and we've talked about is probably ground zero for a meteor impact.
Exactly, the corpse city, perfect example. What's it built around? A moon corpse. And then, of course, in the chat, someone, let's see, who was it? Good comment here. I need to scroll up. Chat is moving. Where was it? Now I can't find it.
Darkstar listens to My Chemical Romance. Of course he does.
They're bouncing against the wall is the point. Like the others can't get through the wall. And here we see the corpses bouncing off the sides of the pyramids and towers. So they're getting they can't get through. So yeah, they've been exiled to the other side of the wall, because this is all about the defilement and sickening of the weirwood net is what ejects the others and evicts them. Evicts them. I'll get it. So this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the flying meteors, but also like the others are flying out. They're being evicted, and they are now smashing against the wall. So yeah.
Well, and that's another really good.
It was Mike. It was Mike Fahrenheit. I just couldn't find it, but yes, that was you. Thank you, Mike. Go ahead, Sean.
Well, it's another way that we should look at Bran. So we look at Bran dreaming. Well, the result of Bran dreaming is after he's pushed out of the tower. So it's like he tried to climb in through the tower, then he falls. And that's the motif we're getting here with them bouncing against the sides of pyramids and towers. And then he has to dream and fly instead of landing.
And that's the first place that we saw the others as evicted Greenseers. The other dreamers impaled on the ice spires. They were trying to fly like Bran, but they fell. If Bran doesn't fly, he'll become that. So yes, this is the first place we saw the evicted others. Exactly right.
So let's see. Huge as they were, the Yunkish trebuchets did not have the range to throw their grisly burdens deep into the city. Most of the dead were landing just inside the walls or slamming off barricades, parapets, and defensive towers. With the Six Sisters arrayed in a rough crescent around Meereen, every part of the city was being struck, save only the river districts to the north. No trebuchet could throw across the width of the Skahazdan. A small mercy that, thought Barristan Selmy, as he rode into the market square inside Meereen's Great Western Gate. When Daenerys had taken the city, they had broken through that same gate with a huge battering ram called Jozo's piece, made from the mast of a ship. The great masters and their slave soldiers had met the attackers here. Oh, Joso's rooster, made from the mast of a ship. The great masters and their slave soldiers had met the attackers here, and the fighting had raged through the surrounding streets for hours. By the time the city finally fell, hundreds of dead and dying had littered the square.
So we'll break from the symbolism to just observe that this is not a nice place to be right now.
It's gross and actually dangerous. Even before they open the gate and start the battle, they could be catching a deadly disease, which, couple things I want to draw attention to. With the Six Sisters arrayed in a rough crescent around Meereen, we should, anytime you see Six Sisters, you should be thinking of the Pleiades. It's a star cluster. There are 6 of them, but it's really 7. It's just that one, we've kind of moved in the sky from where it looked 40,000 years ago, where there used to be 7. And one of the stars is now behind the other enough to where you can't see them as distinct stars with the naked eye. So they look like 6, but it's really 7. And we know from Tyrion's chapter that one of the trebuchets was already destroyed. So it's a 6 that's really 7, and they're attacking here.
They all have their own names. So there's Dragonbreaker, Ghost of Astapor, Harpy's Daughter, Harridan, Mazdin's Fist, and Wicked Sister.
That's cool. So, and even, that's the battering ram. I see. So the ram is Joso's cock, and all the trebuchets are female.
All the work I did to censor myself, and you undid it.
I think that that's fine. I think that one's fine, Tim, because we're just talking. It's named after a rooster, like you said. We're not going to stop saying cock-a-doodle-doo, or pussycat, just because people also use parts of those words to mean other things. I mean, some people,
We would never.
We would, frequently, especially Tim. I do appreciate the attempt at restraint in general, Tim, but I think Joso's cock is all right.
Okay.
I look forward to fighting with YouTube about this. All right.
My neighbors have them. My dogs bark at them.
Oh, rooster?
I just assume that any word that can be misconstrued at this point is going to make YouTube cry.
It's totally possible. We never know. Let's see. So now, once again, the market was a scene of carnage, though these dead came riding the pale mare. By day, Meereen's brick streets showed 100 hues, but night turned them into the patchworks of black and white and gray. Torchlights shimmered in the puddles left by the recent rains and painted lines of fire on the helms and greaves and breastplates of the men. So this really is like, just sounds like Armageddon here. Like the plague, the pale mare, riding right out of Revelation, this fiery battlefield. I mean, that's certainly what he's evoking, right?
Mhm.
Right. Death on a
And
pale horse, but it's also Marvel.
yeah,
The Ensabanur, or better known as Apocalypse, what he does is he's immortal and he's super powerful, and he has the power to bestow powers or greater powers on other mutants. And so he does that, and what he does is he empowers 4 mutants as the 4 riders of Apocalypse. So it's basically straight out of the Bible. And one of them is always death. At one point it's Wolverine, at one point it's Angel. But yeah, this is like, the idea is George is a huge fan of Marvel Comics, so he knows what he's doing here when he has a pale mare.
yeah.
Dude,
And
go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
to comment on something Sean had said earlier, like, and with when we're thinking about disease being flung into a city like this, something that usually flies under the radar, but needs to be noted about war, is that how much of death in war doesn't actually come from the fighting, but comes from the disease. Like when you rack up the death tolls at the end of war, how many of them were actually from sieges and battles, and how many are based off of like tuberculosis or typhoid or trench foot or any of these other horrible diseases that go around. So much more of the death toll is based off of disease than actual battle.
This helps you understand why Barristan's charge makes sense. Like, should we just stay in the city and let them throw corpses at us?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. The trebuchets are big and powerful, but the slave soldiers are highly defeatable. Let's just call them. So yeah, Barristan's charge makes quite a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And Sean, why don't you grab this here?
Sir Barristan Selmy rode past them slowly. The old knight wore the armor his queen had given him, a suit of white enameled steel, inlaid and chased with gold. The cloak that streamed from his shoulders was as white as winter snow, as was the shield slung from his saddle. Beneath him was the queen's own mount, the silver mare Khal Drogo had given her upon their wedding day. That was presumptuous, he knew, but if Daenerys herself could not be with them in their hour of peril, Sir Barristan hoped the sight of her silver in the fray might give heart to her warriors, reminding them of who and what they fought for. Besides, the silver had been years in the company of the Queen's dragons, and had grown accustomed to the sight and scent of them. That was not something that could be said for the horses of their foes.
So let's just pause here. Barristan with the white snow raiment of the Kingsguard. That's nothing new. And of course, Barristan in the other chapter, it really just gets dialed up. His armor is as hard as ice, and he's taking a cold bath. And we know that he has a white dragon's helm with big dragon wings. So he is essentially the ice dragon. Now, something that occurred to me about an hour before the stream, Tim, I think you're going to like this. Think about Adara from the Ice Dragon. It's this cute little girl, Winter's child, and her friend is the Ice Dragon. And the Ice Dragon's giving her rides and looking out for her. It's this old friend. Like, Barristan is Dany's Ice Dragon. It's really cute.
Yeah, I mean, that's what an other is at its core. When we talk about them being blue blood, they are blue blood of the dragon. They are frozen dragons. So it's a big reason why we're going to see Viserion whited with, blue glowing other eyes. It's because that's what they are. The others are symbolic ice dragons, and one of them is going to be a lot more literal. I mean, I don't think they're going to blow, ice sheets out of their mouth. It's going to be like blue fire, but the symbolic intent is the same.
Yes, it is. And then I also was thinking about how, the other ice dragon in the story is Jon, who is kind of like the good other. Barristan also like a good other, an other that's your friend. And Jon being an ice dragon, if we're continuing with the Dany Adara thing, it just sort of foreshadows like Jon is going to be Dany's friend and protector and stuff. And I think it makes sense. I like it. But yeah, Barristan in particular really feels like the ice dragon in the story. So I'm digging it.
It's fantastic because one thing that's emphasized is that they come from the same family. You see the ice dragons and the fire dragons coming from the same family. You see the fire dragons of House Targaryen, black and red, and then you see their white Kingsguard who are portraying ice dragons, sometimes who are literally Targaryens or Velaryons. The first Lord Commander of the Kingsguard was a Velaryon. The most famous members of the Kingsguard are Dunk and then Aemon the Dragon Knight. So we have another ice dragon there. We see
Aemon the Dragon Knight is a tremendous ice dragon. Yeah.
Right. Then we have the same thing in House Dane, where they have this white sword. You already call the Kingsguard white swords, and our most famous member of House Dane is Arthur Dane, who is in the Kingsguard, has his white sword, and
his white sword is probably dragon steel of the last two.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
because it's
and
a
then
common
the
sword.
inverse of that, we have swords of the evening like Gerald Dane and Vorian Dane, they have all that night and black fire symbolism of the dragons. So we are seeing them come from the same family, no matter what the iteration is.
Yep. The others and the Night's Watch brothers are brothers from another mother, as we have established.
Well, the Kingsguard were created by Visenya, so it's like she birthed them, so they were birthed by a dragon as well.
Actually, Dawn being forged from a meteor would be more of it's forged from the heart of a fallen star. Dawn is a star corpse.
Yes, exactly right. It's the same symbolism emphasized again in a different way. I never thought about that. Yeah, heart of a fallen star. I also think he's doing a bounce off of Nissa Nissa there. So Jon is born from a fallen Stark. Lyanna Stark is up in the tower. She is dying, just like the moon in the sky. She is the Nissa Nissa character there. And so just as Lightbringer is born from Nissa Nissa's heart, we have the sword from the heart of a fallen star. We have the child born from the blood and sacrifice of the mother. She put her heart into her son. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just parallelism. We always know that astronomy is going to be paralleled with the characters and their hearts in conflict. So, yeah.
Well, just in case we weren't trying so hard to associate stars with dragons, George made one of the foremost constellations in his world, the Ice Dragon.
And then he has Jon look at it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
All right. So pick it back up, Sean, with actually Tim's turn. Barristan Selmy rode past them slowly.
We just
did that. Correct.
Okay, with him rode three of his lads. Tumbo Low carried the three-headed dragon banner of House Targaryen, red on black. Lorak the Lash bore the white forked standard of the Kingsguard, 7 silver swords encircling a golden crown. To the Red Lamb, Selmy had given a great silver-banded warhorn to sound commands across the battlefield. His other boys remained at the Great Pyramid. They would fight another day or not at all. Not every squire was meant to be a knight. It was the hour of the wolf, the longest, darkest hour of the night. For many of the men who had assembled in the market square, it would be the last night of their lives.
So real quick, Tim, I going back for the silver horse because they saw the silver warhorn and that reminded me. The silver horse is part of Dany's like silver moon symbolism, and then also the seahorse because it's gray as a winter sea and she's riding it around the Dothraki Sea. So it is both. And then you have the stellar mare, the idea that mare is a sea, but it also refers to the seas on the moon and the tides, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, what we have here with Barristan on the silver horse, it's like an ice dragon riding the ice moon, sort of. We see the symbolism with Aemond One Eye on Vhagar. It's like an ice king person, an ice dragon. Aemond One Eye, obviously, a dragon with a blue star eye. That's an ice dragon. And he's on top of Vhagar, who is an ice dragon symbol. So the ice dragons come from the ice moon. And this is the thing that somebody was saying in the chat. AV000Q. You said, so the first moon gave birth to dragons. And then Lyanna, like the moon, also gave birth to dragons. So Lyanna is like the ice moon. And if you go back to the Carthian prophecy, After saying that, oh yeah, one day there was a second moon, it got too close to the sun, and it cracked from the heat, and we got fiery dragons. One day the other moon will kiss the sun too, and the dragon will return. The dragons will return. So the other moon, as in the ice moon, it's going to get hit by something. It's not going to be obliterated, because then the planet would just be doing this, and everyone would die. You need a moon, but it's going to lose its ice, okay? And so the other moon will kiss the sun too. Some bad will happen to it. We will get new meteors, and they're like ice dragons. And we'll get the invasion of the others, and they're like ice dragons. So, yeah, basically, it's just parallelism, there's a whole frozen dragon symbolism that parallels the normal hot dragons, and that's kind of what we're exploring with the others. Lyanna's children, and Barristan, they all fit this pattern.
There's also, this is fantastic symbolism here where we've inverted the war horn. Every time we've seen, a sacrifice in a war horn imitating the sound of Nissa Nissa cracking the moon and all that, we always see it with gold bands, right? The people blowing the horns are wearing gold bands. The war horn itself is banded in gold. In this case, we have the war horn banded in silver. This is an ice dragon war horn. And it's complete with the red lamb. So we haven't sacrificed somebody, but the lamb is red because it's covered in blood. We sacrificed the lamb, a horned animal here, for this ice dragon. Nice. Which we give the sheep to the others from...
right.
Oh, God, what's his name? Craster, right?
Craster.
So he's creating others by giving sheep to the others, sacrificing sheep. That's like a red lamb.
Nice. I did not think about the red lamb that way, but you're right.
Oh,
that's how you power a horn.
And then the one carrying the Targaryen banner, Tum Kolo, he's from the Basilisk Isles, and the basilisks are like these fast-running venomous lizards. They look like Komodo dragons. So the flightless dragon is the one carrying the dragon banner.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, they're totally. And then we've got Larak the Lash carrying the Kingsguard standard.
Yeah,
what's that name? It's like Lara Rogaire I was thinking of, but I couldn't.
Well, I was focusing on the lash. So when you talk about, when we were birthing Dany's dragons, we had the little phantom Drogo's fiery lash, right? And then that's also a name for the red comet so it's Larak the Lash, as he's carrying, a dragon red on black. It's a red dragon, fire dragon. So
the red comet is called the dragon's tail, and the dragon's tails are like lashes.
Right.
Yeah. But Lara Rogaire would potentially be one of those Ice Moon Targaryen queens. A lot like Visenya, potentially. So maybe that's the idea.
It's also Lare, like Lare is the Latin household ghost. So it's like it's a ghost of your ancestors that live in your house. They're like house ghosts. So when you're talking about sacrificing members of your family that then go into the dragons, it's like a Lare. It's part of lemur theory. Lemures is it's the same root as the Lares. Lemures. That's where the ghost part of lemur theory comes from.
If there's a whip, psh, 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 there's a way. Love, nothing will, like, people always focus on the animation style, the rotoscoping. To me, it's the music that makes the original Hobbit supreme. But,
where there's a whip, there's a way.
It's the best, dude. There's no better music in an animated movie, I don't feel like. Screw Disney. Oh. That's the best.
Oh, Rankin and Bass are on it. Yeah.
Okay, the hour of the wolf, the darkest hour of night. For many men assembled in the market square, it would be the last night of their lives. As death comes for all of us in the end. Beneath the towering brick facade of Meereen's ancient slave exchange, 5,000 Unsullied were drawn up in 10 long lines. They stood as still as if they had been carved of stone, each with his 3 spears, short sword, and shield. Torchlight winked off the spikes on their bronze helmets and bathed their smooth-cheeked faces beneath. When a body came spinning down amongst them, the eunuchs simply stepped aside, taking just as many steps as were required, then closing ranks again. Love the efficiency there. They were all afoot, even their officers. Grey Worm first and foremost, marked by the 3 spikes on his helm. So we've got stone eunuch soldiers with bronze points. Like, they make great meteor symbols. They're also acting like whites because they've had their personality removed and they're moving in lockstep. We see that symbolism sometimes. Perhaps they're fire whites here. Hard to say. But they are certainly more meteor symbols since they're carved of stone and they got the spiky helmets.
I tend to think ice spikes because of the carved in stone. It also just fits well because it said for many of them it's the last night of their lives, and then he says they're carved in stone. Stone is just the universal symbol for death. No matter where you go, gravestones, stone sepulchers, stone mausoleums, you make statues out of stone of dead people. So stone means dead. It's why you push the stone to the side when you come out of the cave of night, whether you're Jesus or Mithras or whoever. So it's, in this case, him saying, it's the last night of many of their lives. Hey, these guys are carved in stone. They're the dead people already. So, you clocking them as whites is coming from the other end.
Yeah, especially in the scene where Danny frees them, they are representing the whites that need to be freed of the other slave masters. So, yeah, it's kind of a hive mind thing. Go ahead, Tim.
Let's see. The Stormcrows had assembled beneath the Merchant's Arcade, fronting on the southern side of the square, where the arches gave them some protection from the dead men. Jockin's archers were fitting strings to their bows as Sir Barristan rode by. The widower sat grim-faced astride a gaunt grey horse, with his shield upon his arm and his spiked battle-axe in hand. A fan of black feathers sprouted from one temple of his iron half-helm. The boy beside him was clutching the company's banner, a dozen ragged black streamers on a tall staff, topped by a carved wooden crow.
Okay, so we got some last hero math here. Tim, what do you make of this? These storm crows. I mean, this is obvious Night's Watch stand-in on some level.
Yeah, because even the arches gave them some protection from the dead men, and you can think of like Night's Watch on the wall, looking down at whites, and it's like this is the last line of defense from the dead men.
Absolutely. The widower, they are all men who can't marry. You know what I mean? So there's something in common with the widower, with the Night's Watchman, and they are symbolically dead. And then the black feathers, obviously the 12, the obvious thing, 12 streamers topped by the carved wooden crow. Carved wooden, like the Night's Watch crows they swear their oaths to the weirwoods, and behind the carved wooden face of the weirwood is what? The 3-eyed crow. So go ahead, Sean. You're muted, but somebody in the chat is mentioning Gandalf's Stormcrow, so I'll just throw that at you too. Go ahead.
That is where I was going. Gandalf is called Stormcrow by Theoden, whose name is just the Odin. And that's kind of the pot calling the kettle black, because Gandalf is also an Odin character and Stormcrow is a title of Odin. So, it's all roads lead back to Odin, as is typical. So the Stormcrows had assembled beneath the Merchant's Arcade, blah, 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 blah. And now we have archers fitting strings to their bows. Like this is like archers in the wood. So this battle is going to be a lot like the Whispering Wood in a very different way.
And so this is interesting because it's like, well, why are they here? Why has George created this Night's Watch facsimile or stand-in? Well, probably because when Danny does finally fight the last battle, she'll have a bunch of Night's Watch crows on her team. So here, this is Team Danny. We've got an ice dragon leading the army. That will be John. Okay. And then in service to him are these storm crows. So this kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, the Unsullied might be there. They might make it all the way to the wall to fight themselves. Or they could be standing in for Fire Whites, potentially. So
Well, a crow made out of wood just makes me think of the scarecrow Night's Watchmen that they were putting on top of the wall.
right, yeah, which are fire whites. Yeah,
Right.
symbolically. I like how they're going to the arcade. What arcade game are they playing? Street Fighter 2, right?
No,
Gotta be.
which one would George know of?
Mortal Kombat. One of those two. All right, Tim, go ahead. Pick it back up.
The Horse Lords had come as well. Ago and Ricaro had taken most of the Queen's small Khalazar across the Skahazdan, but the old half-crippled Jakaran Romo had scraped together 20 riders from those left behind. Some were as old as he was, many marked by some old wound or deformity. The rest were beardless boys, striplings seeking their first bell and the right to braid their hair. They milled about near the weathered bronze statue of the chainmaker, anxious to be off, dancing their horses aside whenever a corpse came spinning down from above. Not far from them, about the ghastly monument the great masters called the Spire of Skulls, several hundred pit fighters had gathered. Selmy saw the spotted cat amongst them. Beside him stood fearless Ithok, and somewhere and elsewhere Cenera She-Snake, Cameron the Count, the Brindled Butcher, Togosh, Marigo, Orlos the Catamite, even Gogar the Giant was there, towering above the others like a man amongst boys. Freedom means something to them after all, it would seem. The pit fighters had more love for Hisdar than they had ever shown Daenerys, but Selmy was glad to have them all the same. Some are even wearing armor, he observed. Perhaps his defeat of Kraz had taught them something.
And of course, we did that whole scene with Barristan and Kraz in the Barristan live stream. So check that one out. I'll link it in the description after this is over. Some of these names are interesting.
So here we have more mirroring of what's going on with the North with this line from about the Horse Lords. It's either old men or young boys. The same thing is going on in the North with as the who's March?
Green boys and graybeards.
The Umbers. Yeah. That was it. I was going to say Ullers, but I was like, no, it's not Ullers. Umbers, yes. One has the green boys and one has the gray beards. And here we see the same thing with the Khalazar. All of the men of fighting, the typical men of fighting age have left with Dany. So all that's left are the elderly ones or the youngest ones.
I like Cenera She-Snake. That reminds me immediately of Shiera Seastar.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, she's a dragon, which is kind of like, like she-dragon, she-snake. There's a commonality there.
Sorry, guys, I got cold. Another thing I forgot to point out about Tyrion and Viserion. Viserion is cream and gold. So Lannister gold, Tyrion from the gold mine. Probably going to ride the white dragon, with the white Syvas piece. So figures that it would be the gold dragon. But then, of course, hands of gold are always cold. So there's this frozen sun symbol that George does where sometimes the gold things become cold. And so Viserion, if he gets ice whited, that would make sense. And then his gold eyes will turn blue, potentially.
And hands of cold are always old.
Hands of cold are always old. That's cold hands. He is very old. That's true.
But yeah, I like this. You're talking about how they're playing the Night's Watch in a lot of this. So of course we see the Horse Lords here come in as graybeards and green boys. He didn't use the words, but that's what's going on again.
Yeah.
It's the Night's Watch motif.
Yeah.
And even stripling, that's a tree.
I just looked up what catamite meant, and so catamite is a young boy kept for gay sex. But that's another, going back to the northern things, Whoresbane Umber, the reason he got that name, the whore he killed a lot of people. The rumor is that it wasn't a woman that he was spending the night with that tried to rob him.
Well, I was thinking of Satin on the Night's Watch, too.
Yeah, that too.
Brindled Butcher, Togosh, Marigo.
So the Brindled Butcher, that makes it sound like he could be from Sithorios, maybe a brindled man.
They got a giant. They might as well. I mean, A brindled man-human hybrid would make a good pit fighter. That kind of makes sense.
And Gogor the giant, and just looking at Greek roots, that's going to be that. It's basically the same thing as Gogossos. So we're seeing Cinera she snake. That's kind of like the Basilisk Isles. We're kind of going through Sothorios here as we look at these people.
Interesting. Yeah, Togosh. There's that Gogossos again.
Mm-hmm.
I like Barristan's. Oh, some of them are even wearing armor. Look at that. Maybe I taught them a lesson when I killed Kraus. So above the gatehouse battlements were crowded with men in patchwork clothes. I know. I will lead it into the sea and out again. And brazen masks. Of course, Patchface is doing a shaman routine, and they wear masks as well. Masks of animals, and the brazen beasts wear animal masks. So we are still oathening. We are still shamaning. The Shave Pate had sent his brazen beasts onto the city walls to free up the Unsullied to take the field. So kind of, okay, so the Night's Watch are on the walls and the Whites are taking the field. Sort of, perhaps. Should the battle be lost, it would be up to Skahaz and his men to hold Meereen against the young Kai, until such time as Queen Daenerys could return, if indeed she ever does. Yeah, is George breaking the fourth wall here?
Well, one thing that
get around to writing it.
Before we get too far off it, when you're talking about masks, there's an element of Alexandre Dumas here. And Alexandre Dumas, he wrote The Three Musketeers, among other things, but there's kind of a sort of sequel to The Three Musketeers called The Man in the Iron Mask. And the idea is that there were two twins, and one of them was the heir to France. And they hid the other one so that there wouldn't be a succession crisis. They kept him in a prison with an iron mask over his face.
Oh.
And what happened was the older twin turned out to be a monster, and so they swapped him.
Is that mask from that, Tim? Is that what you're holding up?
Oh no, this is the pallid mask for my King in Yellow thing, but it was the closest mask in reaching distance.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's good. And there's a movie, of course, where the person in the Iron Mask and the heir to the throne are both Leonardo DiCaprio. So it's it's a secret king motif. So when you see somebody imprisoned and there's a mask involved and they're in the werewood net, it's secret king. It's John.
Right. Cool. That's interesting. I know it was a movie. People are speaking up for the movie in the chat. Early Leo film. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he does some good work. There's no doubt. Sean, go ahead with Across the City.
Across the city, at other gates, other forces had assembled. Torak.
At other gates, the other forces had us. Who are we fighting against? Okay, go ahead.
He's being abusive with it at this point, but
yeah.
Because we're 5 books in and people are still talking about the plot only and not doing symbolism. And he's just like, damn it, mother. Understand what I'm doing here, please.
I have a subtext here.
I have a subtext, people.
Yeah, the White Gate down Walker Path, the White Walker army had assembled.
If you people don't understand that Aslan is Jesus, I'm going to scream. All right.
Oh, Lord. And we're having a good time with this. But of course, like, some people that might be wandering into the stream are like, God damn, these people are taking so long to get through this chapter. We read 5 sentences and then we stop for 10 minutes. The thing is that George has all of this information in his head when he's writing this. And so when he's spitting out these names and archetypes and statues and scenes, this is where it's all coming from. And so for all of us starting scratch as young people that don't know all this literature, or more likely you know some of it but not others, it's really the only way to gain the full vision of what George is doing is to pick apart all of these references and try to figure out what he's talking about. And maybe not everything we say is 100% correct. Some of it could be serendipity. Some of it could be some other play or work where the author is working off of a similar Odin symbolism in a different way. And we're thinking maybe George is taking it from that and really they're just borrowing from the common source. But what we're trying to do is elucidate the tapestry of literary references that is the context for Ice and Fire. And this is the only way I know how to do it, is to get a couple smart people like Tim and Sean and to sit here and take our time and have fun with it. And also, it's been 14 years since we got a new book. So, like, I mean, what else are we going to do but, like, get into the nitty gritty of this and enjoy each line for all the richness that George has put into it. So that's what we're doing with these chapter reads. I'm thankful for all you guys that are into it and that join us to do this, because it is a lot of fun. And it's fresh. If we just talk about Jon Snow and Dany and like the broad strokes of the story, it's like, well, we talked about that a lot already, and we still will talk about it some. But this is fun. Like, these are little nooks and crannies of the story that haven't been mined. Yeah, this is straight up lit class stuff that we're doing. Like, these chapter reads are the closest thing to, like, you know, classic literature analysis that we do. But Sean, you have thoughts? Tim?
Beams are for book reports.
Indeed.
I
Good
think all of
punchline.
it is just for color, specifically the white and silver colors that go with the others, and the golden and red colors that go with the sun, and the black and red dragons. And
There's a lot of color and symbolism. That's true.
The curtains were blue. There was no deeper meaning, Sean. It just meant the curtains are blue.
Just likes blue curtains. It's the Monica Lewinsky curtain. Deep cut. So where did we crash that out? Did we just stop at other gates and other forces, or did we get through the
I
whole
was
thing?
like one sentence through and we lost it.
That was peak form here. Thank you, Gustavo. Yeah, no, we're all here because we like this stuff for sure.
Yeah, George eye twitching as he writes other 12 times in one paragraph.
Damn it. Who was reading? I forget.
It was me.
Okay, go ahead.
Across the city at other gates, other forces had assembled. Tal Torak and his stalwart shields had gathered by the eastern gate, sometimes called the Hill Gate, or the Kazai Gate. Since travelers bound for Lazar via the Kazai Pass always left that way. Marcelin and the Mother's men had massed beside the South Gate. The Yellow Gate, the Free Brothers and Simon Stripeback had drawn the North Gate, fronting on the river. They would have the easiest egress, with no foe before them but a few ships. The Yunkishmen had placed 2 Giscari legions to the north, but they were camped across the Skahazadan, with the whole width of the river between them and the walls of Meereen.
So I guess what is showing us is that the patchwork of slave soldier armies are not coordinated well. So they haven't really effectively bottled up the people in the city. Like, there's definitely enemies outside the gates, but they're not making a real cohesive attempt to bottle them up. Like, if they want to, they could come out the side gates, and obviously Barristan's going to lead a charge out the gate in a minute. So just another sign of the disorganized opponents there.
This is when you assign your military leadership based on pure nepotism for generations, generations, and generations.
And we'd actually talked about this last week. I brought up the Roman legions, how command would change, and all it took was, and how when I was making my Stannis Hannibal Barca reference, how Hannibal could just wait for leadership to change to the more hot-headed ones and take advantage of that. And that's exactly how the Yunkish are manning theirs, because they have I think they actually come up in this chapter, but I know there's like three of them. There's the one who has chained all of his slaves together with ankle chains so that they can't run away. Then there's the 5'0" guy who has the guys on stilts because he wants to breed the tallest of slaves. He's a height supremacist. He wants the tallest people, even though he's 5'0". And then there's some slave girl with a whip who I think like rushes out bare-breasted. But like command is switching between the 3 of them every fortnight or something.
Okay.
Yeah, bare-breasted whip girl's pretty Frank Frazetta. So glad she's in here.
George is just trying to awaken new fetishes for all of us.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just there's a little bit of a cartoonish foreignness to some of this
yeah.
stuff in the Meereen. So,
The Yunkish, because I've the thing about the Yunkish is like it's evil, but but the way he makes these Yunkish commanders, it comes off as cartoonishly evil. When these are the people that are in charge. Oh yeah, let me put my guys up on stilts and have them wave big pink feathers. Like these aren't like are these soldiers or flamingos? What the hell are you doing out here?
But this is how it works in the real world too. Like everybody thinks of Hitler as like an evil genius, but the fact is he was dumb as the walls, and he was on meth the entire war, just out of his mind, making terrible decisions. And the generals almost killed him because of how much he was interfering with execution of the war.
Yeah,
he was a moron figurehead.
Same with Stalin. Same with Mao. A lot of these guys are idiots, but they are propped up.
Yeah, they're figurehead.
That's interesting. I guess it's mostly Marx that people quote, not Stalin, right?
Right. Stalin didn't have good ideas. He just consolidated power very ruthlessly. He wasn't,
Hey, even Marx was freeloading off of Engels' couch, so.
And we have a drug addict president right now. That's for fucking sure. So,
hey, let's not demean people living off others' couch. We got reading Rhaegar in the other room right there on the couch.
That's true, and I am my own kind of drug addict, I guess. But I'm open with what I'm doing. We don't know what's in that drawer with all the Sudafed. I mean, I guess we do.
It's European Sudafed. It
Yeah.
just has much higher content of the drug, and he's snorting it.
Yeah, this actually has been documented. But
Tim with the shots.
You love our operas.
although now that I think about it, like being president is pretty crazy. You do have to sort of always be, up and awake. So maybe we do need a methed out president. Maybe that's just, I don't know.
I'd probably still prefer a different methed out president, but
I defer to others on these things. I wouldn't want to be president at all. No desire for that. All right. So where were we?
So the main Yunkish camp lay to the west between the walls of Meereen and the warm green waters of Slaver's Bay. 2 of the trebuchets had risen there, one beside the river, the second opposite Meereen's main gates, defended by 24 of Yunkai's wise masters, each with his own slave soldiers. Between the great siege engines were the fortified encampments of 2 Giscari legions. The Company of the Cat had its camp between the city and the sea. The foe had Tolosi slingers too, and somewhere out in the night were 300 Ellyrian crossbowmen.
So let's just harmonize our pronunciations. Kaizai Pass. That's how it's said in the audiobook. I like that. Kaizai. And then I believe that is Illyrian.
Illyrian.
Yeah. Like Illyrio, but with more of an S sound. In any case, I would avoid the slingers. If I was going of all these companies of slave soldiers and stuff, those are the ones I'd stay away from. We saw one of them blow up somebody's knee by the well when there was like a fight going on. Tyrion saw that, and the knee exploded. It was just like pew, 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 pew. Those slings are you don't want that. So
well, and you also have to assume, especially because of kind of the historical age of the groups we're dealing with, a lot of this is coming off very biblical. So when you think of a bunch of slingers, and you think of the Bible, you're thinking of David and the stone slingers and David and Goliath and all that.
Oh, they have Gogor the Giant on our side, so
yeah.
That'd be funny if one of the slingers gets Gogor. We'll all chuckle in Bible together. Yeah. Too many. Go ahead, Sean. No, Tim. I guess your turn. Yes.
I just read.
You just read. Too many foes, Sir Barristan brooded. Their numbers must surely tell against us. This attack went against all of the old knight's instincts. Meereen's walls were thick and strong. Inside those walls, the defenders enjoyed every advantage. Yet he had no choice but to lead his men into the teeth of the Yunkish siege lines against foes of vastly greater strength. The White Bull would have called it folly. He would have warned Barristan against trusting sellswords, too. This is what it has come to, my queen, Sir Barristan thought. Our fate hinges upon a sellsword's greed. Your city, your people, our lives. The tattered prince holds us all in his blood-stained hands. So in what sense is that true, Tim? What's going on with the Tattered Prince here? I kind of forget. Oh, he made a deal with the Tattered Prince after Quentin's deal fell apart, didn't he?
Yeah, he promised him Pentos.
And that is in return for... Where is the Tattered Prince now? Is he with the Yunkai and he's supposed to turn?
He's supposed to turn. Just like, so another northern thing, this is going to be like the Manderleys turning on the Freys and Boltons. The Windblown are supposed to turn on the Yunkai.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, of course...
sorry. I also want to interject. I looked up Illyrian. So apparently that's from a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. We know that George is a huge D&D fan. In the Drakenheim campaign, Illyria is a once great city destroyed by a magical meteorite and is now a contaminated wasteland full of eldritch horrors.
I'm sorry. Where was that from?
That's from Dungeons and Dragons, the Drakenheim campaign.
Illyria with an E?
Illyria, yeah.
Illyria,
such as a fictional empire in the Drakenheim setting. Drakenheim is a D&D campaign.
So let me get a hold of the chat real quick. I am not being political by mentioning the fact that we have a drug addict president. All of our leaders are insane sociopaths, pedophiles, or pedophile-adjacent people, drug users. Like, look, Hillary Clinton is out there capping for Israel still, okay? Her husband has been to Epstein Island 1 million times. Larry Summers, their financial treasurer, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, it doesn't matter, okay? Like, these are people that have nothing in common with you or me or anyone in the chat. They are sociopathic people detached from reality, and they are psychos. Like Palantir, Peter Thiel, the guy that Peter Thiel runs, what's his fucking company? But the Alex, whatever his name, and that runs Palantir, that guy is a psycho. Okay, so this isn't about politics. These are about the crazy psychopaths that rule our world. Trump, Clinton, like, I'm sorry, but they're all cut from the same class. That's why they hang out at the same parties. Like, it's not even a metaphor. They're literally hanging out at the same parties. So nobody get too sensitive. And if your feelings are getting hurt because I'm talking about politicians, like, change your mindset. You should not be capping for any of these people. Okay? So, yeah, based. Look, that was based. That's right.
Clinton and Bush used to go on vacation together. Clinton and the Trumps were friends. They went to each other's weddings, okay?
And Obama went to Cheney's funeral and acted like he was some sort of great man of state. Yeah. It was Dick Cheney, war criminal. Like,
and your guy in charge of Palantir, he named it Palantir because he literally unironically thinks that Sauron is the hero of Lord of the Rings.
And that spying on people is really cool.
Yeah, so it's the fact that, you would be out here like stumping for one of these people, it's ridiculous. Let it go. It's not political. These people are monsters. You need to be on the same side as the people you live side by side, not the people who live in ivory towers and spit down on us.
That's what I'm saying. Like, anybody in the chat, even if you're like, you think you're a different political persuasion than me, like, you and I have a lot more in common than either of us do with any of these politicians. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And we will keep that in mind as we continue on with the chapter. Alrighty then.
So we were talking a little bit about D&D, and one thing to remember is that D&D is kind of doing what George is doing. George has a lot of original material. D&D doesn't have a lot of original material. It's always based on something. So, like, who's the Conan writer? Robert E. Howard. Robert E. Howard figures big into D&D. Lovecraft, Tolkien, all of these people, their works are inspirations for things that go into D&D, whether it's characters or monsters or like the Illyrian Empire. That's a mishmash of a few different influences. So you look at like the Elysian Fields. It's one of the places in the Greek afterlife. So Illyrian is its same Greek root, and there's kind of like a macabre underworld feel to it, even though the Elysian Fields is supposed to be the nice place of the underworld. The point is these things are derivative of something. So when we're seeing George reference something that's referencing something, they're really both referencing the same thing.
The thing is, George has also been very upfront about his gaming addictions. He's talked about how the Call of Cthulhu tabletop RPG, he's called it the game that consumed his life. He said he got addicted to the computer game version of Romance of the Seven Kingdoms. He's a huge D&D, the man plays a lot of games. He has a huge RPG problem.
Elysium is reserved only for heroes. We still talk. Is that still the D&D you're talking, Minerva? Everyone else goes to Hades. And then there's Illyria, which is a geographical place north of Greece. Yeah, I was thinking about that. So the Illyrians, they are a group of people that are in some of the Greek stories. Sean, can you fill us in on them?
Right. So Illyria is its peninsula. And yeah, somebody already mentioned it. And it's Albania is the what Illyria used to be when it was a little bit more Greek. It's now it's been peopled since then, a lot more Slavic influence with the Albanians. But yeah, so Illyrian, but when you have the EL, ELYR, ELIR, it doesn't translate directly into English, but the idea is that Greek root word is from the Elysian Fields. And like, there's a lot of influence to that, like the Champs-Élysées, the big famous street in Paris where the arches are. That's what it's named for. Champs-Élysées literally means Elysian Fields.
So the Illyria that's all corrupted in D&D is like a perversion of the Elysian Fields, sort of.
Right. It's kind of like Lovecraft's version of, yeah. So it's
Gotcha. And Ilian Payne, does he fit into this too? He's a death knight. He is literally the headsman. He is the Grim Reaper, right?
Sorry, I got distracted with some of these, but yes, he's basically like Dead Ned, which is fantastic because he's the one who beheads Ned, and then he gets his sword.
Yep. And by the way, Tyler, I thought the Tylenol joke was funny. It got deleted, but I laughed anyway. So let's go back to this choice. Barristan feels forced to attack, not only because of the Tattered Prince, but like I said, also because of the disease. That changes it. Like he's, being locked inside of his cities because they've corrupted the water supply. So that's a big problem, finding fresh water and stuff. But let's keep it so. Even Tim, go ahead. Even if their best hope.
Even if their best hope proved to be forlorn hope, Selmy knew that he had no other choice. He might have held Meereen for years against the Yunkai, but he could not hold it for even a moon's turn with the pale mare galloping through its streets. And again, more people. And someone in the chat, I believe it was Haymaker, had brought up, like, more people died in World War I from influenza than actual battle. So again, disease can be the real killer here. A hush fell across the market square as the old knight and his banner bearers rode toward the gatehouse. Selmy could hear the murmur of countless voices, the sound of horses blowing, whickering, and scraping iron-shod hooves over crumbling brick, the faint clatter of sword and shield. All of it seemed muffled and far away. It was not a silence, just a quiet, the indrawn breath that comes before the shout. Torches smoked and crackled, filling the darkness with shifting orange light.
So that George is cooking right here. Just want to point that out. It was not a silence, just a quiet, an indrawn breath that comes before the shout. Like when you are distinguishing between different kinds of silences, that's when you're cooking. This is good.
Yeah. And someone had brought up also, they brought up the Horseman Pestilence, and if it hasn't been made apparent from this chapter, George is really invoking all four of the horsemen. So depending on interpretation, sometimes it's not Pestilence, sometimes it's Conquest who rides the white horse. But I do believe that George is obviously with the pale mare. He's going with the Pestilence angle. But then the other three are, of course, War, Death, and Famine. And we are seeing all four of these walking through the streets of Meereen.
Well, and from a symbolic level, the Bible is heavily symbolic, and one of the reasons why those are the four horses of the
Oh God, not the Bible too? You're telling me Ice and Fire and the Bible?
Yeah, turns out actually basically
Politics
everyone.
now religion.
But the reason why that's heavily symbolic of what's happening when basically a state falls. You fall from multiple factors. You fall from the actual war that's being fought. You fall from the famine that happens because you're not able to run your agrarian economy and, tend to your harvest because you're in the middle of fighting. You all get, stuffed behind the walls of a city to stay safe, and you pass disease amongst each other, and you die of even pestilence too. So these all, cascade on each other, and the end result is the fourth horseman, death.
Four horsemen of the apocalypse. I was totally, man. I'm eventually going to write some fiction, and last thing I will want to do is just redo all the stuff that George did. Right? I'm going to have to find other things to reference and turn into metaphors. I'll learn how to speak and then write. Tim, what were you going to say?
Oh, so this is off track, but it was because we were talking about D&D. I did do. I was in a D&D campaign where our goal was to defeat the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Not to bring peace to the world, but to take their jobs and become the new horsemen. My character was an anti-paladin with the Plaguebringer ability. I once hugged a carrion golem, and our DM was like, "What? Oh, damn it, you're a Plaguebringer. Okay, fine, you inherit all of these diseases." So we defeated Pestilence, and I took his scythe, and now I am new in our game. I am the new Herald of Pestilence. But now we need to defeat war, famine, and death. And one of our guys is a druid who can make like plant zombies, and he wants to defeat famine because he's just gonna make all of the he's gonna turn the cornrows into his own personal minions.
This fits. The horsemen of the pestilence coming out of the gray waste. Riders from the gray waste. It's a big problem.
When they took our jibs.
What I was going to say, Sean, is like when I get around to writing my own fantasy, it's going to be like there's going to be like a Peter Thiel analog, and like it'll be like the tech CEOs and corporations and like AI metaphors and things like that. But it'll be fantasy, not sci-fi. But I'll find a way to turn like AI stuff into a spirit-driven entity in my fantasy story. People will get it.
You're muted, Sean.
Oh, you're muted. Yeah,
you're muted.
So that's kind of what Wizard of Oz was. Is that L. Frank Baum put a lot of contemporary politics into it. The Wizard of Oz, who's secretly a fraud and not really powerful, and people only think he's powerful. He's meant to be the president of the United States. The Emerald City is meant to represent centralized banking and like Green City, right?
Right.
And all these things.
Oh.
So, and then, everything that he goes through, all of the different peoples you see, they're metaphorical. And then,
Yeah, okay, so hold on. Let me just grasp this for a second. So, Oz is a fraud, but it kind of works if everybody believes in it. Like, that's like currency and also the government. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Well, that's why he rules the Emerald City, because it's the same thing. It's the same idea. He and money are both frauds. That if you believe in it, kind of still works. And there's a lot of alchemy in that. He was L. Frank Baum believed in alchemy and stuff like that. But yeah, it's all very well done. And
those
then,
were the
times.
Yeah.
Dorothy is Dorotheos. So it's like she's a storm god. And when he gave her a name later, it was Dorothy Gale.
Oh.
When he gave her a last name. And of course, she arrives in Oz in a tornado.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah,
and she upends everything too. Yeah, no, that's
which is why you got to watch Ted Lasso. It's because it's based on Wizard of Oz. Even like the main character Ted, it's short for Theodore, which is the male version of Dorothy.
What's Ted Lasso?
It's a show on Apple, and it's basically like. Well, it's through the lens of a British soccer team, but it's based on Wizard of Oz, and Ted Lasso is coaching a British soccer team, even though he's a football coach in America. And the idea is Ted Theodore is Dorothy, and his last name Lasso even has it's the hint that he's supposed to be a female character, Lass.
Oh.
So, and then they have a bunch of characters representing all the various characters from Wizard of Oz, and they're making their own points about frauds. There's this fraud douchebag who used to own the football team, and yeah, it was a whole thing. Anyway, go watch Ted Lasso. It's actually fantastic.
That's cool. I appreciate the recommendation. It should not surprise anyone that I don't know about a well-known show. Guys, I'm making YouTube videos all the time. Like I don't watch many TV shows, and when I do watch a TV show, it might just be Dark again for the 5th time. So yeah, sorry about that. Thanks for the recommendation, though.
Yeah.
And so we've got The Hush, The Indrawn Breath. We are in the Hour of the Wolf. We are waiting to attack. Everything is just about to happen, but not happening yet. That's where we are. Thousands turned as one to watch as the old knight wheeled his horse around in the shadow of the great iron-banded gates. Barristan Selmy could feel their eyes upon him. The captains and commanders advanced to meet him. Jokin and the widower for the storm crows. Ring mail clinking under their faded cloaks. Grey Worm, Sure Spear, the Dog Killer for the Unsullied. And they all do kill dogs. That's kind of a dark name, though. In spiked bronze caps and quilted armor. Romno for the Dothraki, or Romo for the Dothraki. Cameron, Gogor, and the Spotted Cat for the Pit Fighters. You know the plan. Oh, this is you, Sean.
This is Barristan speaking.
You know our plan of attack, the White Knight said when the captains were gathered around him. We will hit them first with our horse, as soon as the gate is opened. Ride hard and fast, straight at the slave soldiers. When the legions form up, sweep around them. Take them from behind or from the flank, but do not try their spears. Remember your objectives.
The trebuchet, said the widower. The one the Yunkai called Harridan. Take it, topple it, or burn it.
Jockin nodded. Feather as many of their nobles as we can, and burn their tents, the big ones, the pavilions.
Kill many men. Oh, sorry, Tim.
Kill many men. Take no slaves.
Sir Barristan turned in the saddle. Cut, Gogor, Cameron. Your men will follow afoot. You're known as fearsome fighters. Frighten them. Scream and shout. By the time you reach the Yunkish lines, our horsemen should have broken through. Follow them into the breach and do as much slaughter as you can. When you can, spare the slaves and cut down their masters, the noblemen and officers. Fall back before you are surrounded.
And so this is a 2-part strategy Barristan is saying here. It's not just that Dany obviously wants to free slaves, so we're going to try to kill the masters. If they kill the masters, the slaves will stop fighting. That's the whole thing about being a slave soldier. You're not doing it because you want to. You're doing it because you're being forced to. So if you kill the masters, these people will just flee the battlefield and try to save their own lives. So that makes a lot of sense.
We should be thinking of this in the same way that we saw the fight against Mance's wildling army. You know, when there are only a few people keeping that entire group organized. Mm-hmm. You know, when Mance got struck down, they fled in every direction. So the discipline is on a knife's edge here. And
Harma Dog's heads banner went down. Varamir's eagle was burned out of the sky. Yeah, they went after the leaders.
Well, we have the dog eater here.
The dog killer, yeah. Like, I get that the Unsullied had to do the whole get the puppy and then kill it, but it's like, dude, you're not supposed to be proud of it. Why would you pick that name?
Maybe they just, it is a fearsome name, but maybe that guy hates dogs.
Maybe it's just Catholic guilt.
Anyone who hates dogs is not to be trusted.
Yeah, it's true.
It's Catholic guilt. I did this, now I have to wear it.
Oh, that's probably what it is.
Oh, good old Catholic guilt.
Oh, that's Whitney Allison. No, Christy Gnome soldiers.
Oh, God.
Okay. Gogor smashed a fist against his chest. Gogor, not fall back. Never.
Yeah, Hulk reference is obvious with Gogar. Gogar smash.
Sean,
Then
that's you.
Gogor. Then Gogor die, the old knight thought. Soon. But this was not the time nor place for that argument. He let it pass and said, "These attacks should distract the Yunkai long enough for Grey Worm to march the Unsullied out the gate and form up." That was where his plan would rise or fall, he knew. If the Yunkish commanders had any sense, they would send their horse thundering down on the eunuchs before they could form ranks, when they were most vulnerable. His own cavalry would have to prevent that long enough for the Unsullied to lock shields and raise their wall of spears. At the sound of my horn, Grey Worm will advance in line and roll up the slavers and their soldiers. It may be that one or more Giscari legions will march out to meet them, shield to shield and spear to spear. That battle we shall surely win.
This one hears, said Grey Worm. It shall be as you say.
And it shall. Remember, the Unsullied, let's not forget their reputation. Danny has a lot of them. So they are going to kick some ass. And they are certainly a cut above the new Giscari legions or whatever. And the new hastily trained Unsullied. So this is a real advantage.
Listen for my horn. If you hear the retreat, fall back. Our walls stand behind us, packed with brazen beasts. Our foes dare not come too close, or they will find themselves in crossbow range. If you hear the horn sound, advance. Advance at once. Make for my standard, all the queens. He pointed at the banners in the hands of Tumco Low and Larak.
The widower's horse sidled to his left. And if your horn falls silent, Sir Knight, if you and these green boys of yours are cut down?
It was a fair question. Sir Barristan meant to be the first through the Yunkish lines. He might well be the first to die. It often worked that way. If I fall, command is yours. After you, Jokin, then Grey Worm. Should all of us be killed, the day is lost, he might have added. But they all knew that, surely, and none of them would want to hear it said aloud. Never speak of defeat before a battle, Lord Commander Hightower had told him once, when the world was young. For the gods may be listening.
And if we come upon the captain?
Dario Naharis. Give him a sword and follow him. Though Barristan Selmy had little love and less trust for the Queen's paramour, he did not doubt his courage nor his skill at arms. And if he should die heroically in battle, so much the better. If there are no further questions, go back to your men and say a prayer to whatever god you believe in. Dawn will be upon us soon.
A red dawn, said Jockin of the Stormcrows.
A dragon dawn, thought Sir Barristan.
So something I want to interject with is Barristan's telling them listen for the sound of his horn, but we know that Victarion is later going to join the fray, and he has a horn of his own. So I wonder if the blowing of Dragonbinder is going to interfere with this battle, along with stealing a dragon.
Oh, man. I can't wait for Dragonbinder to get blown a bunch of times. Like, it's just such a beautiful thing, you know, the way it shrieks and screams and just, it makes it impossible. You can't even think when that thing is being blown. Like, I need more of that. Also, Dragon Dawn here. So Barristan Selmy, he is dressed up as the Ice Dragon. And so he's the right person to be talking about Dragon Dawn. Again, Dragon Steel. Dawn is Dragon Steel. And that's what we're talking about here. So Barristan is standing in for Jon Snow. Like, I think we've established that. Jon Snow is going to be the Ice Dragon commanding Dany's troops here at this last battle, or the troops. And he probably will have Dawn, in my opinion. And that's what's happening. So,
yeah.
Well, he's
I
even
just-
got the white hair that John will have after he's
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a red
It goes-
dawn too, because it's going to turn red. Sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
and
just because when we think back to the time Dragonbinder has been blown, there was no dragon in the vicinity. So we got to think too, along with just not only the dragon here, but the effect that it's going to have on the people on the battlefield. Because at the Kingsmoot, the Ironborn who hear it, they make it out like it was about to cause their eardrums to explode. So think of like like a weaponized sound wave on a battlefield. The effect, the toll this could have on everyone on all sides.
That's going to be in my fantasy story, Tim.
Oh yeah,
A weaponized sound wave.
Your
Weaponized
fantasy
sound waves.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to tie that back to Soundwave from the Transformers and Laserbeak, and it's going to be good.
I just know you have set the chat afire when you said it's so hard to think when the horn is getting blown.
Sometimes I am a sweet, innocent babe, and I utter these things and have no idea what I have said. It happens. Soundwave. You have yeah, there'll be funny voices. This is good. I can work with this. Anyway, no, I'm gonna do some gravity magic stuff. Which is all wave based. So sound, levitation, that kind of thing. Be fun. Anyway, he had done his own praying earlier as his squires helped him don his armor. His gods were far away across the sea in Westeros, but if the Septons told it true, the Seven watched over their children wherever they might wander. Sir Barristan had said a prayer to the crone, beseeching her to grant him a little of her wisdom, so that he might lead his men to victory. To his old friend the warrior he prayed for strength. He asked the mother for her mercy should he fall. The father he entreated to watch over his lads, these half-trained squires, who were the closest thing to sons that he would ever know. Finally, he had bowed his head to the stranger.
You come for all men in the end, he had prayed. But if it please you, spare me and mine today, and gather up the spirits of our foes instead.
Out beyond the city walls, the distant thump of a trebuchet releasing could be heard. Dead men and body parts came spinning down out of the night. One crashed amongst the pit fighters, showering them with bits of bone and brain and flesh. Another bounced off the chainmaker's weathered bronze head and tumbled down his arm to land with a wet splat at his feet. A swollen leg splashed in a puddle not 3 yards away from where Selmy sat waiting on his queen's horse.
So did we get a little hammer of the waters? Like it's an island chain. The arm of Dorne is an island chain, and here one of the body parts is hitting the chain maker's arm. You know, seems like
Splashing in a puddle. Yeah. This is George once again taking a big idea and he does it all the time. Where a big idea writ small or a small idea writ big. So the swollen leg splashing in the puddle sounds a lot like a meteor landing into the ocean.
Well, it's also when you think about the Basilisk Isles, I think you're supposed to be thinking of like Malaysia and like the Indonesian island. Like it's those are the islands where you see things like monitor lizards, things like Komodo dragons, etc.
Yeah, all the weird wildlife. Yeah,
right. And that was, originally those were all connected. There was a larger landmass, so that is a situation where I forget what the event was that happened that made them more like islands, but the idea is similar.
Yeah, but you're right. Like Indonesia, like Australia, is one of those places where there's so much just the wildlife endemic to there and only there. They're not found anywhere else. Like Borneo, one of the Indonesian islands, is just like huge. So many things that are just, you'll never find them anywhere else on Earth, only in captivity.
Yeah, so there's the Wallace line that people have heard about, which divides all the marsupials that were in Sahul that became, Papua New Guinea and Australia and New Zealand. And everything north of that, you're going to find mammals and stuff, more typical land mammals that we know. But there's other lines, too, in that same area, depending on, at different times, what islands were connected. And these lines indicate separation, thousands of years of isolation between different species. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting corner of the world for sure. And it occurs to me that the chain maker, like who is who's making the island chain? It's it's Azor High. It's whoever's summoning the meteors is the chain maker, because they're turning the Arm of Dorn into an island chain, and other parts of the world are getting submerged and stuff and reformed. Think of the sea dragon that drowns whole islands. It's making island chains, because it's cutting off islands from the mainland, drowning the land, drowning these islands. They're smaller now, things like that.
And think of how many island chains are formed from volcanoes.
Yeah, hot spots and stuff. But also chain, we should be thinking of chains in the underworld sense. There are how many, gods and monsters that are chained in the underworld. Chaining people to the underworld like it's a giant prison is a motif you see all the time. Frankly, right now I'm working on, A Christmas Carol. And so Jacob Marley shows up to talk to Scrooge, and he is just got chains upon chains upon chains all over him.
Yeah, you heard of 2 chains? It's like 40 chains.
E40 2 Chainz collab.
Okay, let's reel that in.
He's got one of 2 chains.
But the chain maker, it will be a reference to the chaining of the slaves, obviously, which is more directly a metaphor for the dead, as opposed to the island chain stuff. That was creative, but yes, the more obvious thing is chaining up the dead. The dead being enslaved, the unsullied are former slaves, and they are kind of dead.
Oh, chat. Never play the Moon Meteor drinking game on these streams. You're going to need a new liver for Christmas.
Oh, I don't endorse any drinking games based on anything I say. I have no conscience about that.
That liver isn't going to help you live. You play the Moon Meteor drinking game.
The reason why I look as fresh as a peach at the age of 45 is because I do not drink heavily. Kids, this is my advice to you. Smoke the pot. 2 drinks are enough. That's from a Wu-Tang song, speaking of. 2 drinks are enough.
All right, so the pale mare, murmured Tumco low. His voice was thick, his eyes shiny in his black face. Then he said something in the tongue of the Basilisk Isles that might have been a prayer. He fears the pale mare more than he fears our foes, Sir Barristan realized. His other lads were frightened too. Brave as they might be, not one was blooded yet.
And I agree with that. I'd much rather live or die in a battle than catch the pale mare, right?
Yeah, well, in one way that we should be looking at this, when we say the pale mare, what we're talking about is, the Sleipnir horse, the gray horse, right? So it's, and that has always been, a metaphor for the werewood net and using the werewood net as transportation, as sight, all of that. So when he says he fears the pale mare more than our foes, it means he's okay fighting in battle. What he doesn't want to do is get possessed by the others.
Yep. And it's the same with the wildlings, It's like, oh, you can kill me, but burn my body, please, because I don't want to be a white. Yeah. That's cool. Let's see here.
So it's Barristan about to speak. He wheeled his silver mare about.
Got it. He keeps wheeling. He keeps, orbiting. It's too much. All right. He wheeled his silver mare about. Gather round me, men. When they edged their horses closer, he said, I know what you are feeling. I have felt this same myself 100 times. Your breath is coming faster than it should. In your belly, knots of fear coils like a cold black worm. You feel as though you need to empty your bladder. Maybe move your bowels. Your mouth is dry as the sands of dawn. What if you shame yourself out there? You wonder. What if you forget all your training? You yearn to be a hero, but deep down inside you fear you might be craven. Every boy feels the same on the eve of battle. Aye, and grown men as well. Those storm crows over there are feeling the same thing. So are the Dothraki. There is no shame in fear, unless you let it master you. We all taste terror in our time.
I am not afraid. The red lamb's voice was loud, almost to the point of shouting. Should I die, I will go before the great shepherd of Lazar, break his crook across my knee, and say to him, why did you make your people lambs when the world is full of wolves? Then I will spit into his eye.
I really like this little bit of apostasy here, because the red lamb, it fits his character. His people are very peaceful, but he's decided to take up the sword. So this is just the sort of existential crisis he would be having.
Yeah, because so the red lamb from Lazar, the Lazarene, the Dothraki called them lamb men, and they are prime targets for Dothraki call raids and constantly being taken to slavery. So yeah, the red lamb is a standout by not. It'd be like if someone from Noth also picked up the sword, like to go against your peaceful god and go and march to war.
And then, Sean, I bet you were going to talk about the religious aspect where Jesus is the great shepherd and he's the turn the other cheek pacifist guy. And you've got like Simon Peter cutting off the ear of the Roman soldier in the garden. And Jesus is like, no, this is not the way. So basically he's questioning that whole pacifism kind of.
Actually, no, that's all you. I was going to go for the Lazar here. It's Lazarus.
Yeah.
It was a man that Jesus resurrected. So we're talking about, dead people being resurrected again. But one of the ways that we should look at this is the Lazar had to die and be sacrificed as, the lamb people, right? In order for Dany's dragons to be born. And they did sacrifice Meereen Mazdur, one of the lamb people, a Lazarene. It's like sacrificing a dead person here.
Well, she's the one who sort of resurrected Drogo, too.
Yes.
So
every time...
George being the big comic nerd he is, of course, he would know the Lazarus Pits and Ra's al Ghul from Batman.
Right. So, yeah. Ra's al Ghul is functionally immortal in the comics. If you've only ever seen him in the Dark Knight movies, you don't know that he's a supernatural figure, that the League of Shadows has been together for like 1,200 years or something ridiculous. And he dips himself in the Lazarus pits in order to, basically renew himself. And there's an element of like unholy baptism involved in that. And of course, it makes a lot more sense when you realize the Lazarus pits come from Trigon, who's basically the devil in the Marvel universe.
And then, of course, there's also Vandal Savage, who is effectively immortal, and he's been alive all these years because of sleeping next to a meteorite.
Yes. Vandal Savage there are scenes that I've called out about Vandal Savage on streams here where I'm like definitely referencing Vandal Savage. He was like an early man. He wasn't Homo sapien. He was something else. I can't remember which.
I think he was a Neanderthal, wasn't he? Or Cro-Magnon or something.
I think it depends on the origin story because he's from the further east, right? He's from like Indonesia or something.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
that's Ra's al Ghul, Vandal Savage characters to look deeper into.
Yeah, I know Ra's al Ghul a little bit, but not the rest of that stuff. So that was interesting. George, yeah, I mean the comics is a big blind spot for me. I don't know many of the comic references, but I know there are a bunch of them. So where are we here? Spitting into the eye of the Lamb God.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah, I do think George is asking us to ponder the philosophical nature of pacifism versus,
Yeah. Oh, well, also, shepherds turned warmongers is the story of Valyria. If we take the story of the 14 Flames, that the Valyrians were originally shepherds who stumbled upon dragons sleeping in the volcanoes. And then that... Going on the Lovecraft angle, a shepherd god turned eldritch abomination is the evolution of the King in Yellow, when it starts out as Haisha, the god of shepherds, in an inhabitant of Carcosa, then turns into the King in Yellow in the King in Yellow stories, and then becomes Hastur when it is adopted by Lovecraft and Derleth. So this, from the jumping of story to story, we see a further corruption of the once benevolent shepherd god into a eldritch storm god.
Looks like the chat was on to what you were saying there. People are all over this stuff. And then real quickly, I got a super chat I want to respond to.
Yeah, we are putting our fingers in many different pies today, and Chad is having a hard time keeping up.
They're having fun. That's the thing about the chat. There's different sub conversations going on. Let's see. Longclaw will be the new Lightbringer if it is a sword, though Dawn could be the original one or just another Dragonsteel sword. George won't have him change swords this late in the story after having Jon so firmly tied to it. I see that argument, but it's all set up though, because Longclaw is a Mormont sword, and Jorah is coming back with Dany to Westeros probably. So Dany promises Jorah that one day she'll give him a Valyrian steel sword, and it's going to be a trade because Dany's going to have Dawn, and this is all set up again. Darkstar's going to steal Dawn. Originally, it was Edric Storm who was going to, after the 5-year gap, be old enough to be named Sword of the Morning, who would take Dawn out of Starfall and get it back into the battle. But then George invented Darkstar to do the same thing after he scrapped the 5-year gap because he needed someone older. And Darkstar, although he will not be named Sword of the Morning, he is ready to steal Dawn. That is very obvious. He thinks that Arthur Dayne ain't shit, basically, without Dawn, and that's really the sword that made him great. And so he covets that, and Darkstar steals Dawn. Like, think about, he represents a stolen dawn, like the long night. So stealing Dawn is a thing. And then so once he's going to join Fagon's Kingsguard, this is also foreshadowed. Fagon is fake Rhaegar's son. Darkstar is going to be like a cheap knockoff of Arthur Dayne. They have both reasons to ally. All the Martells and Southern forces are going to be allying with Fagon. Darkstar, I think, is working with Doran. This is all planned myself. And so basically, yeah, he's going to be in Fagon's Kingsguard. Fagon will want him in there because it looks just like his dad with Arthur Dayne. Now he's got a different Dayne with Dawn in his Kingsguard. But of course, Fagon is a lie that Dany's going to slay. So at some point, Dawn will come into the hands of Daenerys. And Daenerys, by the way, is the one who saw the vision of the great empires of the Dawn. That's right. And they are holding the swords of pale fire, which probably represent the original Dawn swords. So you've got Dany with Dawn, which might also be a milk glass candle. We'll see, like the sword of Shannara. We'll see if that goes that way. But I just think that basically Jon's going to give Longclaw back to Jorah. Jorah's going to fulfill Jorah's wish and join the Watch. Because remember, Old Bear's dying wish to Sam, tell Jorah, take the black, blah, blah, blah. So Jorah will take the black. He'll be given Longclaw, and Jon will have Dawn. That is how that will make sense thematically. I get what you're saying. Longclaw is very important and special, but it is a Mormont sword. And it just makes too much sense. All that coming back around, in my opinion. So that's the quickest version of that theory that I've ever said, but that's several videos. Darkstar will steal Dawn, and I've got the Jon Snow Azor Ahai video has all the foreshadowing for Jon wielding Dawn, of which there is a bunch. He even looks up at the Sword of the Morning constellation and has a whole communion with it. So thanks for the super chat. And there you go. Hope I got your money's worth. So where are we here? Where were you in the speech? I had to go to the bathroom. Sorry, Sean. I was listening from the other room, but I was dying. So
yeah, we just did the whole red lamb thing, and that got us on another tangent.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're right here after that. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we need to climb out of the Lazarus pits.
Sir Barristan smiled.
I was born in this pit, Batman. Oh, sorry.
Oh, and they threw a dead Robin in one of those pits, and he came back not right. That's a
Yeah, Red Hood. Red Hood.
What's the line about Bane in the pit? There's something it's not quite that. It's
You merely adopted the darkness, but I was raised in it.
that's what it was. That's what it was.
I didn't see the sun until I was a man.
Like that, it was nothing but planting.
All right, where were we? Go ahead, Sean.
Right here.
Well said, but take care that you do not seek death out there, or you will surely find it. The stranger comes for all of us. but we need not rush into his arms. Whatever might befall us on the battlefield, remember, it has happened before, and to better men than you. I am an old man, an old knight, and I have seen more battles than most of you have seen years. Nothing is more terrible upon this earth, nothing more glorious, nothing more absurd. You may retch, you will not be the first. You may drop your shield, your sword, your lance. Others have done the same. Pick it up and go on fighting. You may foul your breeches. I did in my first battle. No one will care. All battlefields smell of shit. You may cry out for your mother. Pray to gods you thought you had forgotten. Howl obscenities that you had never dreamed you could pass your lips. All this has happened too. Some men die in every battle. More survive. East or west, in every inn and wine sink, you will find greybeards endlessly refighting the wars of their youth. They survived their battles. So may you. This you can be certain of. The foe you see before you is just another man. And like as not, he is as frightened as you. Hate him if you must. Love him if you can. But lift your sword and bring it down. Then ride on. Above all else, keep moving. We are too few to win the battle. We ride to make chaos, to buy the Unsullied time enough to make their spear wall. We...
Sir! Larrick pointed with the Kingsguard banner even as a wordless murmur went up from 1,000 pair of lips. Far across the city, where the shadowed steps of Meereen's Great Pyramid shouldered 800 feet into a starless sky. Shouldering it, give it the shoulder. A fire had awoken where once the harpy stood. A yellow spark at the apex of the pyramid, it glimmered and was gone again, and for half a heartbeat Sir Barristan was afraid the wind had blown it out. Then it returned, brighter, fiercer. The flames swirling, now yellow, now red, now orange, reaching up, clawing at the dark. We are attacking that with shoulders and claws. Where'd the stars go? Away to the east, dawn was breaking behind the hill. Dawn is broken? Shit, we were going to need that. I was just saying how important it was, and now it's broken.
Oh, and
This
it's
is bad.
breaking in the east where the Shadowlands would be.
Oh, that's where dawn comes from. It's true. From the east.
Anytime George says away to the east, your mind immediately should go to a shy.
My mind goes to a shy often, Tim, as yours does. 1,000 voices were exclaiming now. Another 1,000 men were looking, pointing, donning their helms, reaching for their swords and axes. Sir Barristan heard the rattle of chains. That was the portcullis coming up. Next would come the groan of the gate's huge iron hinges. It was time. He timed that speech perfectly, like to hit the crescendo, talking about shitting and, the battlefield smell, and just keep moving. And then it's like, look, a sign where the harpy stood. The red lamb handed him his winged helm. Sir Barristan slipped it down over his head, fastened it to his gorget, pulled up his shield, slipped his arm inside the straps. The air tasted strangely sweet. There was nothing like the prospect of death to make a man feel alive.
So he also snuck in a...
Line, Sean, line.
Just finish the chapter first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
May the warrior protect us all, he told his lads. Sound the attack.
Thank you. Sound the
All
attack.
right.
Now, what were you going to say?
He snuck in a Lord of the Rings reference, too. So fire shall be woken, like a fire being woken, that's not a normal phrase. Like, that's not an offhand way to talk about a fire igniting. You don't say a fire shall be woken or whatever, which he just said, a fire had awoken. That's from Bilbo's little poem about Aragorn. So, from the ashes a fire shall be woken, a light from the shadows shall spring, renewed shall be blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king. So it's about a secret king taking up his mantle.
So he echoes that language.
A lot.
A lot. And the one that comes to mind, "It is night in your 7 kingdoms now," the Red Woman went on, "but soon the sun will rise again. The war continues, Davos Seaworth, and soon some will soon learn that even an ember in the ashes can still ignite a great blaze." The old maester looked at Stannis and saw only a man. "You see a king. You are both wrong. He is the Lord's chosen, the warrior of fire. I have seen him leading the fight against the dark. I have seen it in the flames. The flames do not lie, else you would not be here. It is written in prophecy as well. When the red star bleeds and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amidst smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. The bleeding star has come and gone, and Dragonstone is the place of smoke and salt. Stannis Baratheon is Azor Ahai reborn." Like, you can hear the echo in so many ways, can't you?
Yeah, and fire being reborn from the embers, like in ashes can still cause a great blaze. Like, yeah, it's George's way of not even very subtly invoking that, and especially because Melisandre tries to be the Jon Whisperer, the secret king that's the ranger from the north. Yeah, he's Aragorn. Jon is Aragorn in a million different ways.
Absolutely.
He even has, all the other fellowship people on it by his side over in the north. He has, Pip and Gren playing Peregrine Took, Pip and Took. He has Samwell Tarly playing Samwise Gamgee. All of these people who are representing different people in the Night's Watch. They're all part of this Lord of the Rings pantomime as well.
And so this makes... Oh, Tim, go ahead.
I didn't have anything to say.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were saying something.
No.
So the other quote about the ember and the ashes, there's 2 that I think of, but one that comes up here on the search. It's Sam struggling with the ice white small paw. And he reaches in. So the impact knocked one hand from Sam's throat, and he was able to suck in a quick breath of air before the icy black fingers returned. The taste of blood filled his mouth. He twisted his neck around looking for a knife and saw a dull orange glow. So looking for a sword, and we got fire instead. So Lightbringer, the fire. Only ember and ashes remained, but still, he could not breathe or think. Sam wrenched himself sideways, pulled Paul with him. His arms flailed against the dirt floor, groping, reaching, scattering the ashes until at last they found something hot, a chunk of charred wood, smoldering red and orange within the black. His fingers closed around it, and he smashed it into Paul's mouth so hard he felt his teeth would shatter. And here's the same thing where it looks like the fire didn't take, and then it does. Okay, so Sam's last thoughts were for the mother who had loved him. The long haul was spinning around him when he saw the wisp of smoke rising from between Paul's broken teeth. Then the dead man's face burst into flame, and the hands were gone. So this ember in the ashes, the fire is almost dead. The bloodline of Numenor is almost dead. But this ember in the ashes will spark a great blaze. So Azor Ahai being reborn from the weirwood net. Here we have this little bit of fire in the charred wood, the ember in the ashes, and then it wakes into the kind of fire that can consume the ice white. The other ember in the ashes quote is Bloodraven's eye, like the last coal in a dying fire. And that is exactly what Sam is using here, the last coal in a dying fire. So it's all the same language for Azor Ahai Reborn and Lightbringer, the Night's Watch. Everything is dark. It's like the Jack in the Green during winter. There's no green to be found, but Jack's got a little bit of green that he's holding on to from which to birth the spring again when the winter's over. So it's the same idea. And I didn't realize that was coming from that famous bit of passage about Aragorn, but that all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, and there's more to that quote as well. It starts as, "All that is gold does not glitter, not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost." So that's something that we see in a lot of these figures. So like Bran is hiding from the snow and the ice whites and everything deep in the roots among this tree because deep roots are not reached by the frost.
Where the last ember is, where Bloodraven is. Yeah. So it's it's that Jack in the Green. The green vitality of nature is akin to the fire, which is not quite out and can re-spark. Yeah, you see how this works.
Yeah.
That's sick. That's nice. And so, and then it makes sense. So that we're using this imagery atop the pyramid. Okay. This is where the harpy used to be. This is where Danny lives. Danny lives atop a different pyramid. And so we're seeing this Azor High fire sparking. This is the Dragon Dawn. Because we're waiting for the dawn, and the sky has got no stars. And instead of the dawn, we got this. We got the sort of light in the darkness. Because dawn is broken. Anyway, I was just getting lost here with the words. But it makes sense to see this Azor High fire here. This is the moment when we are about to fight the last battle. So I guess it's kind of like the Red Comet, sort of, a little bit, in the scene, being on top of the pyramid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and obviously the top of the pyramids was literally thought to be the realm of the gods in Egyptian mythology. And going up to the top of any mountain, whether it's man-made like a pyramid or it's the top of Mount Olympus or whatever, the idea is that you're going up there to commune with the gods or steal the fire of the gods or whatever the idea is. So, having your hill or mountain or whatever it is, have a giant tree at the top and having the tree be the fire of the gods that you're stealing, a werewood tree that looks like it's on fire. And then you hide amongst the roots to stay safe. We see that a lot. That's kind of George's idea on this motif.
Yep. And even at Winterfell, in the root zone of the stone tree, we have the crypts, and it's John that's associated with the crypts most often. And oh, by the way, there might be dragon's eggs or a sleeping dragon or the Winterfell dragon down there. There's definitely a dragon of some kind down there, and that dragon is John. So, yeah. In the chat, Tim is somehow gotten on to the Iron Islands being separated from the mainland. I don't even know how that came up.
Oh, that's my fault. Somebody was talking about how the Isle of Faces is the Entmoot, and I said the King's Moot is the Entmoot because Naga's ribs are petrified werewood, so they're surrounded by a bunch of dead trees.
Oh, well, you're both right, obviously.
Yeah,
but that's cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Grove of Nine is very Entmoot-like then.
Yeah. George, he changed his middle name to RR because he was a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien. Like
he did.
Everything about this series is meant to be a love letter to J.R.R. Tolkien, and obviously he has lots of other book series and authors he loves and likes to reference and respects and all that. But at its core, this is his version, and more grounded in reality and with more, human shades of gray of Lord of the Rings.
Well, it does come up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, every chapter in the entire series.
That's sick. I love a good Entmoot. Oh, little hobbits. That kind of thing.
Which just sounds like, like Grandpa clearing his throat, but don't be hasty.
We need Bane talking to a tree ant.
Yeah. No, so
I see you cute little trees have voices, do you? Anyways. All right. Well, what do we have to say about Barristan's charge here? How's this going to work? This is going to work really well. Is there another Barristan chapter?
There's a snippet. So there's no official chapter, but there is a transcribed recounting of a reading George did. So it's not a proper chapter, but it's a summary of what George had said with only a few actual lines. But I do have it if you need a link to it.
I have the synopsis here. Yes. Drop the link in the chat or something. I knew there was something more. Yeah, let's tackle this real quick.
I think it's also kind of an inversion on a poem. You ever heard of the Charge of the Light Brigade?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know what it is.
Oh, it's an Alfred Lord Tennyson, or Lord Alfred Tennyson poem. Sorry, I'm saying this all wrong, but it's a poem is the point. And it was about a charge during the Crimean War where there was a miscommunication and the English charged with light cavalry down on Russian artillery. And they charged down the wrong valley and they got massacred. So I think there is going to be a miscommunication here. But I think the Light Brigade, i.e., Barristan in his pure white armor and all of that, being a literal Light Brigade, I think they end up winning because of the miscommunication instead of losing. And it's just kind of a little bit of George irony.
Yeah, he does like to do that. What if this, famous thing happened a different way type deal. So this is, again, a summary. I guess they weren't allowed to take notes or whatever. So they had to write it down afterward. So it says his gut feels twisted from nervousness as they ride through the gates. There's probably some lines about shitting and stuff. He knows that the feeling will go away once time slows down in the chaos of battle. Danny's horse is easily outpacing the lads and the rest of the cavalry. Barristan is pleased because he intends to outrun the widower and strike the first blow. The young Kai are totally unprepared, and Barristan closes in on the Harridan, the largest of the trebuchets. Storm crows take up the cry Dario, and storm crows fly, and Barristan thinks that he will never again doubt the valor of sellswords.
Fly, you fools!
Oh, God. You're right. That's so funny.
It's always Lord of the Rings. But yeah, this makes me think, like the Persian army screaming Darius as they went into battle against the Greeks.
Oh, yeah. We should think
so
there could be more there, Sean.
They have very close to a phalanx with their, unsullied shield wall here.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense from a pop history perspective. There are reasons why that's not completely accurate, but it's sort of what's going on.
Let's see. So there's only 30 yards between the horse and the young Kai legions by the time any defense is mounted. The air fills with arrows. A squire for the storm crows is killed, and a bolt pierces Barristan's shield. There are 3 horn blasts, and the pit fighters emerge from the gate behind them. So 3 blasts for the others. That's cool.
And pit fighters.
What's that?
Yeah, 3 blasts for others, and here come the pit fighters.
Barristan glances back to see them. There's about 200 of the pit fighters, but they make enough noise for 2,000. One woman stands out wearing nothing but greased sandals, a chainmail skirt, and a python. That does stand out. Barristan.
Soretta She-Snake, I'm assuming. Was that her name that we? Yeah.
I believe it's pronounced Britney Spears.
I thought it was like a Barbarella thing, maybe.
She's got the python. She's performing with the python around her neck at the VMAs. Y'all don't remember that?
Barry.
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to know.
I love it though because it's a female version of you remember you're doing your the constellations and you got to the 13th constellation, Ophiuchus, right? The giant with the snake around his shoulder. So we have like a woman with the snake around his shoulders, and of course we're chanting out people Lorac, which is the Lorax.
Oh, I didn't think about the Lorax.
Yeah.
This is a chainmail skirt and a python, and yet somehow this chainmail skirt has more armor DC than any other items in the game.
Strangely practical.
This outfit has no practical use in combat.
Female video game armor.
Yeah, the chainmail bikini.
Barristan is a bit shocked, and watching her breasts bouncing around, thinks that this day is sure to be her last.
I said I knew there was one one woman. I thought she was on the Yunkai side, so I was wrong there. But I knew there was one who went into battle bare-breasted.
I do believe that George will give us 2 or 3 lines about this woman at least.
Good. I like that Barristan is a bit shocked. That's like the lightning hitting the tree here.
I don't know that Barristan has ever, been with a woman. So,
Yeah, is he blushing over here?
No, I think
the
he's
pit-
stuck to his vows of celibacy.
yeah, he probably keeps those vows. Is all I'm saying. The pit fighters are mostly shouting Lorak and Hisdar, but some do start to call out Daenerys. Lorak is hit in the chest with an arrow, bringing Barristan's attention forward, but the squire keeps the banner held high and shakes it off.
When a problem comes along, he must whip it. When something's going wrong, he must whip it. It's Lyric the Lash.
Lash it.
Lash it good. Barristan had reached the Harridan, but a Giscari legion 6,000 strong had lined up to protect the huge trebuchet. Well, that's nothing to sneeze at. They're 6 ranks deep. The first rank kneels and holds their spears pointing out and up. The second rank stands. That's the phalanx. The rest have small throwing spears and are ready to step forward when the comrades fall. Barristan knows that a maester's chain is only as strong as his weakest link, and identifies the companies of the Yunkish lords as the weakest of his immediate foes, certainly weaker than the slave legions. In particular, Barristan targets the little pigeon and his herons. The slaves chosen to be herons were freakishly tall before they were put on stilts, and they wear pink scales and feathers and steel beaks. We've seen them before. But Barristan sees that they will be blind because of the dawn rising of the city and like to break ranks. They're going to see it first because they're on stilts.
Mm-hmm.
And like to break ranks easily. So Barristan turns away from the legion guarding the trebuchet at the last minute and heads for the herons. Tim, pick it up.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. This 5'0" height supremacist and his prancing flamingo army. He cuts the head off one of the herons and his lads join the fray. Dany's horse knocks a heron into 3 others and they all fall over. In a moment, the herons are scattering and running away, led by the little pigeon himself. Unfortunately for the little pigeon, he trips over the fringes of his bird armor and gets caught by the red lamb. So again, this is cartoonishly evil. And now it's turning into a Looney Tunes thing. The little pigeon begs for mercy, saying that he will fetch a large ransom. The red lamb just says, "I came for blood, not gold," and knocks in the little pigeon's head with his mace, splattering blood all over Barristan and Dany's silver horse.
So I'm seeing a pretty huge parallel here. So first of all, joined the fray. So this is like when we had the frays at frays and herons, frays at Harrenhal. And
and there's herons here.
They're talking about a large ransom. They were going to get a large ransom for Jaime Lannister at Harrenhal, but it didn't end up working out for them. So immediately we see smash, right? And he said, "I came for blood, not gold," which is what ended up happening with Jaime. He cut off his hand knowing that would hurt the ransom. And then they ended up just giving it back for free. But yeah, it's splattering blood all over Barristan and Dany's silver horse. And Barristan is, of course, going to have the same symbolism in common with Jaime, who is also a Kingsguard member. So now he's covered in blood, just like Jaime was covered in blood. The difference is that instead of white gold like Jaime, he's white silver. So it's moon rather than sun.
That's cool. We also saw the white dragon Sybas piece take the blood sacrifice.
Right.
So there could be a weird type of implication here, or just be feeding blood to the dragon. Let's see. Go ahead, Tim.
The Unsullied begin marching through the gates, and Barristan sees that the Yunkai have missed their chance to effectively launch a counterattack. As he watches more of the slave legions get slaughtered, mostly those who were chained together and could not retreat. Again, I said that was another one of these Yunkai captains bound his slave soldiers together so they couldn't run away. So they're sitting ducks. He wonders where the sellsword companies like the treacherous Second Sons have gone, and we'll get to that next week. The Unsullied finished lining up outside the gates. Is that implacable or implacable? I never know that word.
Implacable.
Implacable, even when one of their own number falls with a crossbow bolt to the neck. Tumco draws Barristan's attention to the bay, asking, "Why are there so many ships?" Barristan remembers that yesterday there were 20, but now there are thrice that many. His heart sinks when he reasons that the ships from Volantis must have arrived, but then sees that some of the ships are crashing together. He asks
remember, Victarion has taken a lot of non-Ironborn ships, so he could be using some of those as a deception.
And we said last week, these are not warships. He even looks at them as, we called them the sissy ships. So these are the ships that he would not mind sacrificing by just using them like battering rams.
Mm-hmm.
So he asks Tumco, whose young eyes can see more clearly, to identify the banner. Tumco says squids, big squids, like in the Basilisk Isles, where sometimes they drag whole ships down. Oh, cool. So there's krakens. If the Basilisk Isles weren't bad enough, there's krakens in the water. Mm-hmm. Where I'm from, we call them krakens. Do you want to say that?
Go ahead, Sean. Yeah.
Where I'm from, we call them krakens. Realizing that the Greyjoys have arrived, his first thought is, has Balin joined with Joffrey or the Starks? But he realizes that he's heard that Balin is dead, and wonders if this has something to do with the Balin's son, the boy who was a ward of the Starks. He sees that Iron Men are coming ashore, fighting the Yunkish, and says, surprised, "They're on our side." The sellswords did not come to meet his charge because they were already preoccupied with the Ironborn. Barristan is almost gleeful. "It's like Baelor Breakspear in Prince Maekar. The hammer in the anvil. We have them! We have them!"
And so, yeah, Barristan, when you go to war, you're turning over cards and you kind of don't know what's going to be under there. And it's like, oh, Ironborn Navy bonus. Another one is, oh, the Second Sons have switched sides. And Tyrion is there, whom you can talk to and like connect with. Like he's doing well. He got out into the field here. He picked on some Stork soldiers, and then instantly the Ironborn have shown up. And so there, it's obviously we don't know exactly. Barristan especially doesn't know what the Ironborn's deal is, but if they came from Westeros, they didn't come here to fight with the slavers, So he sees them attacking them instead, and he's like, "Sweet, yeah, we'll take an Ironborn navy." So pretty cool. And the hammer and the anvil, Baelor and Maekar, that's just kind of George's shorthand go-to for pincher movement. That's the thing you want to do in any battle, really. It's not even a specific strategy. It's just like, if you can, you want to outflank the enemy and then come at them from multiple sides, because then you can't form up into these legions and keep the enemy in front of you and attack one way. Everyone's turning around, and that's basically, you've pretty much won once you do that. So,
but it's also a subtle reminder that there's probably a black fire afoot out there.
Oh, he's got to be around here somewhere.
Yeah, the hammer and the anvil is what brought the Battle of Redgrass Field to an end and ended the first Blackfire Rebellion.
Well, and he would have called it a pincer movement, except the specifics here is that the anvil is immobile. So that's the shield wall that they're smashing them into. And the hammer is a cavalry charge, usually with spears. So it's a good way that he can equate a hammer with a spear that he often uses as the same symbol. It's like the red comet.
Yeah, I see. So this battle is going to go well, essentially. You can see what's going on. The slave soldiers, there's a lot of them, but the lack of communication and the low quality of some of them being untested, I mean, they're basically like show ponies. They're not meant really for combat. And so, yeah, this is...
They're also, like we saw with the chapter we read earlier, they're not... These guys on Barristan's side are fighting for freedom. Slave soldiers don't have that motivation. And mercenaries, as we'll see with next week with Tyrion, mercenaries only fight for money. They'll change side if someone offers them more money.
Or if they think they're going to lose.
Or if they think they're going to lose. Mercenaries are not to be trusted. Mercenaries will change sides at the drop of a hat. So there's no personal skin in this game. If anything, there's more reason for the slave soldiers to try, to break rank and join up with Barristan and yield.
Meanwhile, the people of Meereen, not only are they fighting for survival, but like got a bunch of young soldiers eager for the right to wear a braid or, kill their first man. Like they got some hungry folks out here. So
yeah, like you said, you'd rather die in battle. Nobody sings songs about the guy who died puking his guts out from bad water. Dysentery is only remembered on the Oregon Trail.
I don't want to remember any dysentery, but yeah. Cool. Well, that's Barristan for you with a little bonus Barristan. And stay tuned for Tyrion Targaryen Part 2 this week. And we'll be back next week with Tyrion, the Winds of Winter chapter. So there it is. Sean, you're muted, but tell us about your YouTube channel.
Okay.
Some people are playing a drinking game based on the host muting themselves, which is probably right in the pocket for
It's not good because I think at a certain point I started doing it more than you do.
There aren't enough livers to go around, guys. You can't keep playing these drinking games.
I've gotten better. Sean's gotten worse.
Yeah, I'll get used to it. But it's because every time I clear my throat, I try to mute the thing, and I keep double clicking it. Yeah, anyway. So sorry, my YouTube channel. If you're following my YouTube channel, I'm going to be putting out an analysis video on my Patreon and a chapter read, which will have a teaser on YouTube. So please watch for A Christmas Carol, which is what I'll be trying to come out with this week.
Nice. The Christmas Carol. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one, Sean.
It was way more in depth than I meant it to be or than I thought it would be. It's going to end up being my longest video ever. This is probably going to break an hour, and I may need to divide it up. So it's
cool.
A lot more depth than I thought I would find there.
Right on. Well, thanks to all my mods. Shout out Mickey in the chat. Steer Pike's sister, Erica, Downtown Clowny Brown, everyone else. Friends all, thank you. Northern Tommy's in there. So, I am going to go ahead and call it here. And like I said, Tyrion Part 2 coming this week. So look out for that. And thank you very much, Tim and Sean, for giving us your time on Sunday and making this stream much better than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, this stream, everyone knew we were nerds, but this stream really revealed how much with all the Ra's al Ghul and Vandal Savage talk.
This stream was dynamic. It had many different things going on when you think back on it. It was a good one. So appreciate y'all, and I'll see you again soon.